Watch for now. Sometimes the
wind is blowing cold and dark. On the road and no way out. Broken hearts, the smoking gun. On the run. On the run.
Well, hey, it's Monday. Welcome, Clyde Lewis listeners. My name's Jimmy, and this is Aftermath.fm. And tonight, we had a very special guest planned for you. We're having technical difficulties trying to get him connected. He's in France, and we're having some issues. So we have a backup plan, as we always do, so stay tuned.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The ceremony is about to begin. Let me tell you about heartache and the loss of God. Wandering in hopeless night. Out here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stone, immaculate.
In this weird, irradiated wasteland, like in The Road Warrior. So in my head, I'm like, well, I'm clearly going to be being chased by mutants on motorcycles. I can't run very fast, so I need to slim down. And we all know that motorcycle mutants are cannibals, so I'm just too much of a treat, right? I'm like a luau to those guys. I gotta focus on Stringy or I'm dead. By the way, that abiding belief in the coming Road Warrior wasteland that's the reason I tried to go off my meds. I take Prozac, and I tried to reduce my Prozac intake because I was like, well, I don't want to be out in the wasteland fat and depressed. Like there's not going to be any Prozac after the collapse.
My name's Jimmy, and Into the Microcosmos on the air.
Last night I was piloting a plane, and all the passengers were drunk and insane. I crash landed in the Louisiana swamp, shot out by the zombies, but I come out on top. What's it all about? Guess it just affects my mood. Sitting in the dirt, feeling kinda hurt, but all I hear is doom and gloom.
Epic Journeyman. Are you there?
I am here.
Excellent. Well, it's good to see you. I'm glad you're here.
Almost wasn't. There's a beautiful day here in Hawaii today, man. I mean, every day is beautiful, but today was especially beautiful. It was awesome.
I know. Well, that's always an excuse. You can't call in sick when you live on an island, though, because your chances of you running into your boss are pretty good when you're out on the beach or on.
They're very good. Yeah, not your boss, but your coworkers. That's
yeah,
right.
he called in sick, too. He's like, look, you guys shoot each other a look and just go give each other the thumbs up.
Especially when driving a big old work truck around, right? It's my personal transportation, so it makes it hard.
Yeah, well, we're supposed to have Christopher Everard from the Enigma channel on tonight. We're having problems connecting him, so I'm not real sure exactly what the issue is. We'll get that squared away at some point, and if it doesn't happen tonight, he's on this call, so he can jump in if he gets it all squared away. And if not, we will reschedule it and get that thing back on track. There's so many great things going on over at Enigma TV. He's got a bunch of new stuff coming out, and he was going to come on and talk about tonight. And since he can't make it, our best buddy, a good friend of ours and a good friend of yours, Bruce MacDonald, is here. Bruce MacDonald in Costa Rica. Are you there?
I'm here, Jimmy.
Excellent.
I got to tell you, man, that introduction to your show,
Yeah.
that is plush, man. That is plush. Okay, that's like landing at Charles de Gaulle Airport in the Concorde. You just coast into that show, man, into the microcosm. I'm happy to be here.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, thanks. So we had a whole list of stuff we were gonna talk about, and actually it was kind of funny because Chris has been on the show a few times, and we've had a fairly good relationship, as far as being on the air together, and so this time, prior to the interview, he said, hey, why don't you throw a few questions our way, And so we threw a few questions over towards Chris, and so hopefully when he shows up, when we get him on here, if he can get on here tonight, or if we don't get it happening and he has to come back, hopefully we can get those questions answered, and maybe we can even look at a few of them ourselves tonight here, and as we go. So
Yeah.
what do you guys up to today? Now, I haven't really been paying much attention to any current events at all, practically, except for some of these main issues that we see that are afflicting everybody. Like, for example, today when I went by the gas station to get some gas, gas has gone up 50 cents in the last 7 days here. So, and it's at $4.51 per gallon over here in Northern California.
No, that's outrageous.
What is it over
gas
there?
prices?
What is
Well,
it?
we go
It's
by
like 381 here.
It's
we go
381
by-
in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, we go by the liter here, and I'm not sure what it is right now. It's gone. I know that it's almost doubled. So it's like, oh God, man, I got to do the conversion in my head. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna say close to like $2 a liter.
Yeah.
A liter. So
yeah,
I
no, I
forget
get-
how many liters are in a gallon.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter because all I know is I'm not over there, I'm over here, and $4.50 a gallon for me and for everybody else over here. When it starts to get over $3 a gallon, it starts to really take a chunk, like because for the most part, everybody in California has to commute to work. So nobody's, most people don't go a couple miles. Lots of people bought homes far, far away because they could get them cheap, and they said, oh, I'll just commute. Well, that was when gas was, a couple bucks a gallon or whatever, or $1.75 a gallon. But at $5 a gallon, 100 miles to go into work every day starts to add up pretty quick. And when you're making like $25-$30 an hour, that overhead's coming right out of your pocket. You can't defer that cost. You know what I mean? You gotta come out of pocket with it, and so. It puts us right back where we were talking a couple weeks ago about the company store model, where you're constantly in this situation, Bruce and Epic, where you just don't have enough to make it. You always have to rely on some sort of a credit mechanism for you to get to the next space where you're going to get your influx of cash. And so we're seeing people are not being able to go that period of time anymore because the money that used to last for 2 weeks only started lasting for a week, and now, man, how long is it going to be before it's only lasting a couple days at this point with the inflation? Bruce, the first stimulus was $7 trillion. Inflation's going to come home to roost at some point, and your money that's sitting in the bank, it's losing value, as it's sitting there. There's so many different aspects to what's going on right now. It seems like a total dismantling of, the society as we recognize it. What do you think?
Well, I agree completely, and it's what I would call a slow boil, and simultaneously through magic of the military-industrial entertainment complex, the American consciousness, especially the male consciousness, has had this uber hero projected to them since like the 1960s, since like whenever the Magnificent Seven came out. And just follow it all the way up. But this and a lot of the response to the situation is coming from this mindset, this golem, this mimetic character in everybody's consciousness. It comes out in different forms of bravado. But the real war is this sort of much more detail-oriented, stage-by-stage civil war where you have to meet these people at every step of this agenda and try to push them back. But it requires thought, community cohesion, and consensus of opinion. I don't see too much of that, but fairness it's mainly the projection of the mainstream media that makes me think that that isn't present in America. I don't live there. You guys tell me. But basically, Jimmy, what I'm saying is that it's a complete clusterfuck. You're absolutely right. It's like watching a drunk blind shepherd leading 2,000 sheep over a cliff. It's absolutely mind-boggling what's going on, and how incapable American society is of really grappling with it in a meaningful and realistic way that doesn't seek to sell it or create hyperbole around it.
Well,
So-
I got a different view, I think. I think what's happening is that money's basically free right now because interest is so low. It's like no interest. So whatever money you spend now or borrow now against the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff is basically the lowest interest you're ever going to have to pay it back. But we have no intention of paying it back. I think that the writing's on the wall that the entire system is going to crash and burn. It's meant to crash and burn. And so basically they're just getting what they can now. It sounds silly, but I think that's it. I think there's no way that it can sustain itself, and it's not going to survive this last 2 years. So what's going to happen is that they've been wanting to reset it for a long time, and whether it be the Fed coin or some kind of Bitcoin thing or whatever it's going to be, money as we know it's going to cease to exist shortly, and they're probably going to go to universal basic income because they have to set the floor. If they don't set the floor, it's just going to be a bunch of people, having food riots like Running Man, at the beginning. So I don't know. I don't see another way out, really. I mean, they say it's going to be this age of prosperity because we have 6% growth right now and all this stuff, and it's going to seem that way just like it did in the Roaring '20s. But it can't stay like that. I don't think they intended to. I think it's meant to.
Well, they already said they rolled out some $500 a month basic income up in upstate New York as a pilot program this week. So
there's a couple places actually.
Yeah, I posted a link for it on the Aftermath.fm group. So if you guys are over there, you guys can look in there and see it. It's in there. So it's like a $500. She's getting $500 a month, and she says, hey, it's $500 a month. It helps with my electricity and a little bit of my food. But $500 a month's not going to cut it, man. $500 a month.
It's got to be like 3,000, 4,000. Yeah.
I mean, the thing is maybe it could be a lot less if they reset the economy to a digital coin and got rid of this old money with all this, baggage
Inflation,
attached to it.
interest. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now stuff that a loaf of bread doesn't cost $5; it costs 10 cents. But it's 10 real cents. Don't have that other baggage attached to it. Something like that. There was a novel that was written. It was a fictional novel. It was written back in the 80s, I think, early 90s. It's called Alongside Night. And it's about a story about a world that has gone mad. And money is turned back into real money. So when you buy something, you got to buy it with silver or gold. And the thing is a egg breakfast based in gold costs you like 35 cents, So it's interesting, with the inflation and go ahead. No, I thought you guys.
So
said,
I want to.
Yeah.
I want to just pick up on what Epic was saying there.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I don't know why you began your statement with "I disagree." I didn't really hear any disagreement there. I totally agree with everything you're saying. I'll give you guys a snapshot from outside the continental U.S. It seems to be in full force in my part of Central America, which is Costa Rica, because they're spending beyond their means. This is what's going on down here I would describe as like 20, 30 years in the past for most of the countries that are all locked up in the system now. But Latin America was late to get in south of Mexico. And so the IMF is down here big time. It's like Indonesia in the 80s. Like Ecuador just took a $4.5 billion loan. Costa Rica is about to take a $1.75 billion loan. Now, with this money comes external management. It's like Price Waterhouse becomes your Ministry of Finance. That's literally what the IMF is. Hey, those guys, keep paying them, keep the pensions going, but they're not actually going to do anything anymore. Our guys over here in the private sector, they're going to handle all your national economy now. We're going to tell you to cut back on the pension. We're going to everything, right? So this is what it is. It's a handover of your economy, but not in the militaristic way that some people describe this. It's more of a passive, like, we don't really understand this, but we want to be part of the system. Can you do our books for us? Sure, right? So, and in Canada, there's this dude by the name of Mark Carney. He's kind of a big deal in worlds that not many people know about or talk about, but he's a bright light of the Rhodes Scholar caliber from Canada. His specialty is economics. He was the governor of the Bank of Canada for about a decade, and then he went over at the invitation of the Queen and the British Parliament to be the governor of the Bank of England, which, as you know, is the central bank of central banks. He's now back in Canada. He's published a book. He fully supports the Great Reset, describes capitalism as evil, actually uses the word evil in his book. I didn't read it. I just read excerpts from a National Post article reviewing the book. But if the mood in Canada now, the way the Great Reset is coming into Canadian consciousness now, it's coming in 100% through Parliament and through people like Mark Carney coming back and adding to the fray by publishing books. But what's interesting about the Canadian model is the media is not in on it. They're going, what the hell are you talking about? How could you possibly be proposing changes this sweeping without even calling an election or let alone letting us see any kind of legislation? What this means for Canada. And they're calling it a surrender of sovereignty. There are a lot of things. It's a big, big deal going on in Canada right now. Now, as I follow American media to an equal degree as I follow Canadian, the openness of it hasn't quite come out into the American public rhetoric yet. Nobody, like even the most liberal of mainstream media, like Don Lemon or Anderson Cooper, would not do a favorable 5-minute section or segment of it now on broadcast television. The American mind is just not ready for it. But around the world, it's happening, guys. It's absolutely 100% happening. This is live action. This is not a drill. They're actually going to do this. And to show you how absurd it really is, only 4 months ago, Trudeau said the expression Great Reset in the House of Commons, got called on it in the scrum, kind of never repeated it, got called on it by the press outside and said to the press, I never said that. And like within 24 hours, there's C-SPAN footage of him everywhere, all over YouTube saying it. And so we're now in a situation where a form of government and a lifestyle change unprecedented in its drama and scope is about to happen without any real substantive public disclosure. We're not talking about not calling an election. I mean, if you go back to 88 and 89, the U.S. and Canada both had elections related just to the free trade issue. It was big enough. Like Brian Mulroney sold it for 2 years, sold free trade to Canadians as a conservative prime minister, and then staked an election on it, said, I'm going to leave it to the Canadian people to decide this. And in 1988, we had an election just basically based on whether or not we wanted to go into a free trade deal with the United States. Flash forward 32 years later, and we're not even having a public debate on a complete on a world transforming on par with 5 times the size of what we'll call the Marshall Plan. Mm-hmm. It's mind-boggling. Well, I feel like I'm from another generation of politics. I feel like I'm from I feel like an old man now, and I don't know if the world. I don't know if the world has just become too complex for the kids to follow. They don't really get what's at stake, or they're, as you guys are so apt to point out in the great research you've done, they're mimetically controlled. They're living within basic mental imprints that have been put in there, but there's a lot at stake right now. And the amount of public, just imagine a similar issue being debated on public television with like Buckminster Fuller, Norman Mailer, Noam Chomsky in 1985. They would do an hour on this Sunday morning on ABC. Should we go into the Great Reset? Mm-hmm. They would talk about it for 3 years. It's sneaking into our realities now without anybody talking about it. It's a lockdown.
And everybody else is so tired of being locked down that they're not. No one's gonna even put up a fight at this point because people, there becomes a point when you're not when you're out of work, okay, and you're not working, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
You get to a point, man. If you go past a certain place, it gets to a point where you really don't want to go back to work, man, because you start thinking about, man, I gotta get up and go there and do that. Jeez.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so the thing is most of the people that remember what it was like in the past under these different kind of political ideologies and philosophies is that most of those old people that could relay the information to us are either dead or doped up in some senior citizens home, you know what I mean, dead. Like, look at how many of them died recently. I mean, every one of those old folks that died takes all what they know with them, all the wisdom they have, everything that they could tell you about what they did during the Depression and what it was really like. And all there's left now is reading material for those who want to seek out history. And most people don't want to seek out jack shit. They want to search on Google. They want to get a paragraph, read it, and then act like they know everything about it. And so the thing is we got a generation of people that don't remember what happened in the past with some of these ideologies. And so,
Captain Google's, yeah.
Well, so what I'm saying is a lot of these guys are wearing Che Guevara T-shirts and, Mao T-shirts and, communism, this, and, nobody's really hip to what's really going on. But what they're thinking is, I want my universal income. I want my socialism, and there's enough people right now that are on the edge that would probably sit down for a $2,600 a month payment coming in. Even if that meant they had to go down and get a vaccination of some sort.
I mean, that's – sorry, I interrupted there. I just want to say that that's where I was going to go is exactly what you just said there, that the Great Reset isn't a financial reset necessarily. It's a reset of the mentality of people so that's exactly that. People don't want to go back to work. That was intentional all along, right? I mean, that's what they're talking about on all the news shows right now is about we can't get people to go back to work. Why can't we get people to go back to work? Well, it's because your job sucks. That's why nobody wants to go there. And so there's a good part of it in the fact that people realize, well, I don't want to waste my life, working at this minimum wage job for some, guy snapping the whip on me all day.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, the work ethic is forgotten. It only takes a couple months to forget your routine. Once you forget your routine, you get a new habit going, and that's it. You're in that new habit. It's hard to establish new ones.
That's what we've been saying the whole time. We said the first 90 days of this thing that we were in was everybody getting retrained into a new habit. And that habit is to stay at home and wait for the word from the government to tell you what to do. If it's okay to go outside, or if you should wear a mask, or if you shouldn't. Or if it's okay if you go take grandma into the hospital. No, you better wait outside. I don't think you better go inside with grandma. We've been retrained, okay? And look, Bruce, how do people at some point, when they're spending a day and night in the house, when does reality begin and the dream world stop? I mean, the hyper reality that exists with the internet interaction, the behavior modification complex, the mimetic warfare that you were talking about. Yep. I mean, people are literally automatons at this point, just walking around waiting for somebody in a white coat to tell them where to go or what to do. Because they don't know what to do anymore, because what they used to do is not okay anymore. What men used to be, they can't be. Nobody can say what they think anymore. Everybody's a suspect until, I mean, everything is go ahead. I was just going to say, everything's a micro issue with people. It's like they've decided to take all the micro groups, put them all together, and build some sort of a majority, except for there's no common thread running through the micro groups, except for they all want something. They all want something they didn't get because they weren't, they couldn't get it. They didn't have the skills to get it. They didn't have the right sex to get it. Whatever it was they wanted, they didn't have what they needed to get it. And so now they want us to give it to them because they deserve it. Even though they didn't win or they didn't work out or make themselves an athlete to win that race, they want to win the race because we handicap the people that did do all the work. We got to handicap the rest of everybody else to harmonize for the people that can't make it. So
Yeah.
that's a weird world to be living in, Bruce, don't you think?
I think it's remarkably weird. I mean, if you're not seeing irony everywhere you look now, you're just not looking, or you're incapable of recognizing irony. But it's anybody's guess what's going to happen now from one day to the next. Now, look, I think ultimately the future is good. We're talking about the demise of a man-made system for governance and economy. And we're not talking about the end of the world here. People conflate things, and it's just ridiculous. But I will throw this caveat in. In the Native teachings, and they're quite consistent throughout Native communities in the world, there's this idea of the fifth world of man, probably best known in America through the Hopi prophecies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they say the rattling of the world that brings the fifth world in will be so severe that the systems will be whittled back to all who survive will know how to plant food. So that's their measure, right? And it's a simple native parable, because that's, if you're anywhere plugged into this system, waiting with a bowl in your hand like Oliver Twist for your oatmeal in the morning, get out of it, man. You get out of it, right? It's not too late. How much time do you think people got, Epic? Another year and a half to go and get into groups of 10 or 12 and buy a farm, or try to maintain some autonomy, at least food autonomy?
Less than a year, I'd say. I mean, not very long, because the plan has always been that, I would say that the odds of there not being the robots and things already out there designed, built to take over the menial labor that, they don't need us for anymore, are already there. They've already been planned. They've already been tested. They're already out there. It's just a matter of deploying them. And so when you take all that labor away, you need educated people. Well, guess what? There's not enough educated people to do those jobs, is there? What about when artificial intelligence does it as well or better than we can? It's a problem.
What are they going to do with the 6 or 7% of people in the Five Eyes countries who have anywhere between 8 and 15 million saved? They're in their mid-50s. We're talking doctors, partners in law firms, people who went way high up in bureaucracies, under secretaries in departments in the U.S. People who make $300,000-400,000 a year. They don't come from lineage money, but they had a great, let's say, Gen X, okay? Do you think those people are going to get fleeced? Do you think that's why they brought in all the bail-in legislation?
I would say that they're going to be given an offer they can't refuse.
So,
I think that's what they're going to do. Like, in other words, they'll give them a certain amount of what they consider equitable value in the extra, whatever the currency is, or land, or whatever it ends up being. Because they're going to have to scrub the whole system. They're going to have to, Now, I was just reading the average person in March, not the average person, but 14% of all renting households were behind at least $3,400 in their rent, and that was in March. It's gone up as June, so you got to figure it's probably double that. It's probably more like 25% by now. I haven't seen a more recent statistic, but if that's not just if that's rent, what else is behind? Their car payments are behind. Everything's behind.
Mm-hmm.
People are just going back to work. There's jobs out there, but they're low-paying jobs. They're not the jobs that they wanted. Some people are going back to their old jobs, but a lot of them, like I said, just don't want to. They didn't pay enough anyway. So it's all the money's going to run out. All the unemployment's going to stop, and those people are going to be left holding, the dime, so to speak, with no income and no place to live. So what are you going to do? There's going to have to be something.
They just passed a thing. So they just said that that these restrictions on landlords for evictions and collecting money is unconstitutional or whatever. So there's no way they're going to let that fly. So they're going to start throwing people out immediately, And so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that either, because that's quite a few people that are going to get thrown out. Where they're going to come up with the money, it's going to be like, come up with the money or get out.
You know what I think they're going to do? I really do. I think they're going to make 3D printed shelters in different cities and locations, kind of like rest stops for cars.
Well, what are you going to do?
But just all over the country, and people just can live there.
Okay.
And it's not going to be living high on the hog, but they're not going to die of the elements either. And that people have a nomad culture. The people who don't want to work, well, that's going to be their life. And then they'll have to give them some kind of basic income because they don't want them out there, stealing people's bikes off the porch.
Right, but first they got to
Right.
first they got to get them out. Okay, so listen, have you ever been evicted from a house? Have you ever tried to evict a tenant from a house? Do you know how?
I've seen it happen.
Okay,
yeah.
it's
Pretty
not
pretty
easy.
bad.
It is not.
Documentaries.
It is not easy, man. And like, just imagine in New York City. Imagine just in one block how many people are not paying rent. I mean, how many people just stopped paying rent? Not because they couldn't afford it, but because they could get away with it. They didn't have to pay rent. Well, man, you're gonna need the U.S. Army to go in there and throw everybody out, and you're gonna throw them out to where? Go ahead.
Okay, so this is where another dimension comes in. Okay.
Yeah.
We've been in part of this mimetic structuring, mimetic warfare has years of what I would call the Milgram experiment. Just pushing people further and further and further to see what they'll do for a good salary, a good pension, to live in the top 5-10%. Let's stop picking on the 1%. Let's pick on the top non-entrepreneurial 5 or 7%, the weasels who climb their way up in government bureaucracies, get guaranteed incomes and pensions and stuff like that. It's going to be, there's a lot of, let's discuss the Great Reset the way our politicians won't. Okay. What happens to borders? Is it forced immigration? Is it UN mandated immigration after that? Do you realize the power a global state would have with a token-run society? It's going to be like a giant arcade. You have nobody's going to have cars. It's all going to be self-driven Ubers. Mm-hmm. You have your tokens. You have tokens.
That's right.
You got your tokens.
That's right.
Anything
Social
you want
karma
to do.
reigning in people's behavior. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be mind-boggling. And then the next question becomes, what happens to the nation state? What happens to the nation state? And and there's to go in a little bit into the woo-woo, there's another dimension to this that, what does unification under this system and under this system of law, if it comes about and the world is ruled under this system, what does it mean fourth dimensionally? Does it mean that all of the sort of infighting, spiritual, extraterrestrial entities, all of that stuff has been resolved and one sort of voice of authority has taken over the planet? And what voice is that, by the way? Is it the Norse gods? Is it who is it? Right? And because there's always the invisible world that creates the visible world we live in. There's an interrelationship there. So you got to wonder about the spiritual dynamics on the other side. What's going on to allow this to happen and physically manifest? And what is the consequence for us? I mean, if we get wrapped up in a global system that claims to have our consent to everything that's being done down here, we've locked ourselves into like 10,000 years of hell. It's going to be remember, the Soviet Union broke because it had a counterpoint. It had the West. And no matter how hard they tried to keep news out, this is a problem in Beijing too. The most firewall-ridden country in the world. Don't let that pesky rock and roll music in here. The kids will be rebelling against Papa Mao, right? So how do you lock this whole thing down, right? Spiritually, how do you lock it down? How do you shut down the voice of freedom? Indians don't want it. Look at Modi. Modi is a nationalist leader. Is it really, can we really go to Epic's level of cynicism and just fold up shop and say it's an inevitability we have 18 months, 20 months? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know.
See, there's no way in hell. Listen, I'm telling you right now, man, the amount of people that ain't paying rent and mortgages is literally staggering. And when the moment comes that they start trying to throw these people out, there's going to be a cross call across America for them to do something to stop what's happening to all these people, these low-income people, people of color, all these people. They're getting thrown out on their ass. Something's got to be done. And, man, that's the moment where the universal income is going to come in, man. And they'll say, we'll hold a moratorium and the government will take care of whatever your back, just file your forms and the government will take care of all that back rent to keep all this. We're going to keep taking that back rent and we're going to give them 90 more days extra rent. To get
the company store.
Yeah,
yep.
Come on, man. I mean, that's what's going to happen. There's no way they're throwing those people out. And as far as what you were saying about dropping the borders, hell yes, they're going to drop the borders. Why? Because They're building the Belt and Road project. The only country that's not involved is in America. Okay, and let me just say, there's a highway that runs from one of the biggest ports in Mexico all the way up through Texas and into Canada. And so that old conspiracy theory, the North American Union, I think will be a reality. Just like the European Union, we'll have the North American Union, and maybe the Amero may even be the Fed coin of choice, simply because it could be used in Mexico, Canada, and America. So we got to drop the borders because why, Jimmy? Why do we drop in the borders? Because there's no construction workers here. Where are the construction workers going to come from? Because the average construction worker in America is 45 to 50 years old. So nobody wants to be a construction worker. Where are they going to come from, Bruce?
Okay, let's look at this another way, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that came up when my friend and yours, Bernie Sanders, was running for the leadership of the Democratic Party again, losing, of course, to Joe Biden, because that's what he's there to do, is lose. Oh, shucks. He's literally Charlie Brown come to life, isn't he?
Yeah.
Right? He needs to go spend a nickel on Lucy's psychiatry and figure out what's going on in his life.
Yeah.
But anyways, Uncle Bernie, he says, and people listened, right? And this is why they're rebelling against Biden now. Uncle Bernie says, hey, kids, there's $67 trillion in baby boomer retirement savings. I'm going to liberate that. It's free education for everybody. So, look, if there really is that much money in private hands in America, $67 trillion, the economic situation is not as dire as it seems. The baby boomers could pay off the national debt. It's about the most physical part of it is only a few $1 trillion. The derivatives and all. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that there's another thing. Let's throw another fly into the ointment of a guaranteed great reset. If it were coming, we'd see more action in the markets now. Now, I know Basel III is mandating that all central banks expose their derivative liability. And the central banks are representative of the banking system because they all reconcile through the central bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they ask central banks to do this, they're asking for the national banking exposure in the derivatives market. They're asking for this in Basel III, which goes into effect in the fall, right? So this is, if you don't know, folks, this is the new international banking exchange regulation. So it's a codex, if you will, that allows them to exchange information among databases.
Mm-hmm.
But your database has to be set up within these requirements, Basel III. And they name all the cells and tables and everything, and that's how they exchange data so easily, right? It's in the database architecture. So this is all coming into the banking system. Okay? So why aren't we seeing the derivatives market disappear? Why aren't we seeing financial broadcasts disappearing? Why is the Wall Street Journal still printing? Right? Look, it's going to be a lot harder to just, unless there's something even darker than COVID just around the corner.
Well,
if 2021 is set to get real scary, I'll eat my shoe and say I'm wrong. But unless another, how farther down the rabbit hole of despair, the well of despair, could they go than what they've done to people for a year and a half now? What's next? Micro nukes?
Yeah, well, I mean, the realization that whatever $67 trillion of Social Security money, that is not there. So we might as well just know that now. That shit is
there's no
long
golden
gone.
either.
No. I didn't say Social Security money. I said in the hands of private citizens, the baby boomer.
Oh, you mean like in their little accounts?
The old people. Bernie said we're going to rob the old to give free education to the young.
See what you mean?
The old have 67. This isn't public. This is private money. I had no idea there was that much private money in the banking system.
So you're saying it's a haircut bail-in type situation is what you're talking about, but what I'm talking about is there is no Social Security money. And what they're going to do is they're going to roll the universal income and Social Security into the same thing. So you won't get Social Security anymore. You're just going to get universal income and universal health care. No more Social Security.
Yep.
Because that
No
money's
unemployment
gone.
insurance, nothing.
Yeah, that money's gone. Now, as far as the 67 trillion in private hands, that's a lot of money. And you know, they did it to the people in Greece. You know, they tried to do it to the, you know, let me just point this out. This was a moment in time too when these haircuts started happening. What happened to Bitcoin? Yeah, everybody transferred their money out of those countries like Belarus and places like this, transferring their money around and putting it into Bitcoin, and they're the ones that made Bitcoin worth money. And as soon as they want to pull their money out of Bitcoin, Bitcoin's going to go back to where it came from, because they can't have competing currencies with these new world currencies that are going to come out. So whoever's got their dough keeping that Bitcoin, you know, you might want to just, I don't know what to do. I don't give financial advice, but I'd be pretty worried, at least right now, about it, just simply because, you know, you can't have competition, right? I mean, there's a reason why the dollar is the Federal Reserve note. It's the currency that everyone uses around the world, because we won World War II. And nobody,
petrodollars,
we bombed out the industrial capacity of the rest of the world. Nobody could build or do anything without America, because we had all of our factories and everything intact. So I mean, we didn't become the world reserve currency because we were the best country necessarily, or even that we won the war. It was just that we were the only ones who had industrial capacity to supply the consumer goods needed to rebuild the rest of the world, and that's what strengthened America and after World War II as far as the world reserve currency. Go ahead, Evan.
Yeah, I was going to say that. The thing with Bitcoin, there's a couple countries that are cutting back on either making it illegal, or they're just, you know, as a government, scaling back the amount of energy that they can use to make it, because they're saying that Iran, they scrammed their reactor the other day, and it's going to be down for a week or whatever, because they were spending all this energy making Bitcoin. That was one of the things that was going on. And then China says they're done with Bitcoin, but I doubt that's true. They're using 30% of the energy, last I read, making Bitcoin with computers and stuff. So the nation states actually spending their energy, their little energy, their electric energy on Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. That's why nobody can get a graphics card right now. All these places are using them for cryptocurrency harvesting. So I think that in a way that's going to become like the ultimate green, dilemma, right? Is like the environment's got to be saved from Bitcoin. That's how they're going to kill it. They're going to kill it like that. You can't have all the world's resources being used on a cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. They've set the death of that narrative right into it. It's so easy to see. I mean, on the one hand, they're doing the Green New Deal. On the other hand, they're backing a currency that requires like just an unbelievable amount of power. I heard recently a YouTube commentator of some repute poo-poo that idea and say 5 times as much power is used on video games, and I totally believe that. But what that fucking idiot didn't factor in was video games aren't mandatory, you fucking moron. Right? So I'm not going to name his name because we don't want to get give your pugilistic reputation, Jimmy.
Yeah,
but common sense has to prevail, is what I'm saying, without humiliating anybody.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of roadblocks and hurdles to this great reset, man. Maybe they could cobble it out in phases over 20 years, and I'm 55 in July, and get us Gen Xers gone, and then continue conditioning the young people. I mean, they've got complete control of the kids now. And look, folks, I don't mean to sound like some cranky old Christian, because I'm not. No offense to the Christ himself, but you're tinkering with Mother Nature when you break up the family and the procreative patterns of a tribe or a civilization. And you look at the 20th century and restructuring the human mind for different concepts of procreation has been a big, 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 big part of what's been going on here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And boy, do I ever see, with the Great Reset, do I ever see the plan coming into focus now, right? It really is like, I swear to God they had this end game planned in 1890. When you look at the rollout of the Industrial Revolution, or maybe I'm just giving them too much credit intellectually and intergenerationally as a cooperative body. Maybe what they understand really well is us. and how limited we are and how poorly we make choices, and it's very easy to lead us to this point. And the temptation to do so with all the power built into the system was just overwhelming for them. You know, who knows? Who knows?
I don't know. Sounds like you're taking a bath over there. Make sure you scrub your back with that brush.
That's right. Don't use the hot water. You need the energy for Bitcoin.
I'm walking around with my cell phone. I just filled the kettle up. Apologize.
No problem.
Never occurred to me
No
that
problem.
all these sounds go through.
Yeah, no problem. So hey, it's after the after party, and it's into the microcosm right here every Monday through Friday, 10:30 Pacific. Immediately following Clyde Lewis and the gang. Great show tonight from those guys. And again, Christopher Everhard having some kind of technical difficulties with getting him on the horn tonight. So we apologize. We'll get that rescheduled, but don't you worry about a thing. We got you covered. And it's Aftermath FM. Aftermath FM.
Next to me, you can see where things go naturally. Just say the word and I'll part the sea. Just come over here and sit next to me. Take you
Foster the People. Sit Next to Me is the name of that song. You guys want to open up the phones? Why not? 626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. Give us a call. 626-999-4761. Wildcard. Go anywhere, anytime. Wildcard line. You're on the air. Give us a call. 626-999-4761. So let's continue on here. Well, let's forge ahead with the harmonization of the world. Okay, the world's trying to harmonize. And the only one that's got a problem is America. America won't harmonize with the rest of the world.
Because they got the most.
Right. And
they got the most to lose.
So the thing is to what? Distribute. When somebody has more, is to take away their more and distribute it so that everyone has something, rather than some people have more, some people have less. They just want everybody to just be in a gray jumpsuit, in a melancholy mood, ready to do what the guy in the white coat says. And I think we're almost there at this point. I mean, as soon as they make weed legal in every state, and you start getting some of that genetically modified heroin-like dope smoking going on, people are getting off that couch, dude. They ain't gonna get off.
It's already going on, man. You should see Canada. You should hear my son's reports.
Yeah.
You know, he's working construction and he smokes weed. You know, and as a father, I'm saying, like, 2 weekends a month. You don't need any more than that. And, his uncle smokes, his mom smokes a bit. Everybody in Canada smokes. Judges smoke, lawyers smoke, doctors smoke. This is a fact, actually. I'm not talking out my ass here. We have the highest per capita pot use in the world. No offense to you Californians. You probably thought you had the record. It's Canada. It's Canada. And why does pot go so well with Canada? Because Canada is the most apathetic country in the world. All cold climate countries are somewhat apathetic. The Russians maybe being the only exception. But Canada is like the crown prince of apathy. And so pot really goes with it, right? And I mean, this is what I mean. So this is why we're 6 months or a year and a half ahead of you guys in terms of openly promulgating the idea of the Great Reset, even bringing heavy hitters like Mark Carney, the governor of the Bank of England, back home to consult with the Trudeau government. And I guarantee you similar rhetoric is floating around the Parliament of Australia. But in terms of taking the lead of actually seeding the idea in the public's mind without actually acknowledging you said it or you're considering it, Canada has a nose. If you bet Canada to win, place, or show, you'll probably do quite well.
Well, man, I gotta say, and we've talked about it before. I mean, Canada's got some tough people. Tough dudes in Canada. The army, the fighters. Everybody grows up playing hockey. You know what I mean? So I mean, Canada used to be an ass kicker. Now everybody's laying back smoking dope. Everybody's, like you said, it's apathetic. Oh man,
yeah.
Oh man, Great Reset. Jeez, man.
There's also a tremendous cognitive dissonance, right? Now, I have to say, this is actually brilliant. I have to tip my hat to the other side because, look, when the game's played really well, you got to just stop and tip your hat, right? A hole-in-one is a hole-in-one, even if your arch enemy makes it. And when you look at the way they're playing this, man, it's just brilliant. It's like absolutely brilliant the way they're playing this whole thing out and everything, and the cognitive dissonance that they've created in people, and people don't understand what's happening. And the genius of this stage of the game is they're doing a double entendre with the whole notion of conspiracy, because they've smeared that to be a thing to laugh about in polite civil society, which is of course mentally governed mainstream media society. But they've made it a laughing. They've made you a laughing stock if you don't want to get the vaccine, if you disagree with anything that's going on in the public square. You're still being laughed at. We don't know how that breaks down demographically, whether the population is really down with all of that or not, or whether it's just being done by the media. But since 9/11, there's been such a proliferation of counterculture and the weirdest conspiracy theories, and it's become such a big part of what we'll call the internet culture.
Right.
That the insiders are actually playing a bank shot off it right now. They're believing that they can actually openly do the conspiracy, the Dr. Evil thing now, the Great Reset, and the entrenchment of conspiracy theory being so ridiculous is so entrenched in the percentage of the population they need to move forward that they can just it's like they've put the dogs to sleep. We can get into the camp now.
Yeah.
And it's mind-boggling. And how did they do that? How did they get people to a point where you say, hey, man, everything you have is going to be taken away from you in the next 10 years? It's how, oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist. No, Justin Trudeau actually said it. Mark Carney just wrote a book. It's not conspiracy. Now, the only people who seem to be getting what I'm saying are the journalists in Canada now, which I find really, really surprising. And I mean, the Canadian equivalent of the New York Times is going, what the hell is this? What do you mean Great Reset? What are you talking about?
And pay attention, right?
Yeah. And by even asking that question out loud, they've reviewed a lot of things that they cover, and they're doing it in a new light now. So what I'm seeing going on in Canada is there's major daily newspapers that are, moving more to the perspective of a place like Aftermath FM and the kinds of things that are discussed here. So it's really kind of mind-boggling when you think about it. There's so many things up in the air now. It's unbelievable. UFO disclosure, the fulfillment of the prophecies in the Abrahamic traditions. This is the biggest what-if moment in the last, 10,000 years since the last flood.
I'm not psychic, but I can tell you down to the penny exactly what universal basic income, United States is going to be. It's going to be $2,583.33 a month. And the reason it's going to be $2,583.33 a month is because it costs $31,000 a year to keep someone in jail. That's the cost, nationwide cost, the average cost of keeping someone detained. So there's your universal basic income right there. That's it. You set up the enclosures we're talking about, the 3D printed habitats, when we call them houses, habitats, and give people $2,503.33. And if they want to do anything beyond that, that's up to them. But that's their basic, not only their basic income, that's exactly their basic. It's setting the bar to its lowest, right? This is what lowest rung society won't let you fall below there, right?
I'll go you.
That sounds good, but we'll see how it works out.
I'll see your prisoner cost. Okay, I'll see your prisoner cost, and I will raise you, on that, because look, there's no extra up to $2,500, and at the end of the month, let me raise you on this. Your last month's money expires at the end of the month before you get your new $2,500. So you have to spend.
Actually. Keep the economy moving, right? Yeah.
Right, and because it will be worthless by the end of your, it won't, that money will be gone. It won't be anything there for you. So you got to spend it all. So I think strip clubs and bars will get real busy a couple days before the end of the month. People should spend that money before it goes away. You don't want to waste it. But who knows? By the time that money comes in, I mean, it may cost $2,500 for a tank of gas and a.
No, you had it right the first time. You reset things back to what they should be minus inflation, and it'd make a huge difference. And to be 100% down to a loaf of bread being a dime or 26 cents like when I was a kid, but something more reasonable certainly. Mm-hmm. But I would say that it does make sense. Like if you make it so that the people that have the universal basic income have to spend it, like that's the law, they have to spend it. Mm-hmm. But the people who acquire it through trade and merchandising and through selling something, they get to keep it. So in other words, that's how the economy grows. So it's set in motion by the requirement to spend. That's what makes the economy move. And then people acquire wealth by actually, doing work. Work is rewarded. Being productive is what rewarded. Excuse me. So like if you create something cool, people want, and they buy it, you get to keep and acquire wealth, right? But the people who are just going to a strip club, they can just go to a strip club. That's on them, They can spend the money hower they want.
Well, it's Metropolis.
Use that same money and make something cool people want.
It's Metropolis, right? The thinkers and the workers. Yeah. So there it is. Let's talk about that a bit. So Metropolis, the thinkers and the workers, we're almost there, right? So isn't that the age of Aquarius? The age of Metropolis?
I think so. And the thing about Metropolis, a lot of people miss is just how Masonic and esoteric it is. There's so many things in there that tie into the mystical, right? that would be great if Chris Everard was here with us tonight, because he could really elaborate some on that. But yeah, there's Masonic symbols everywhere in that movie, and a lot of witchcraft and sorcery kind of symbology as well.
Well, just
to go with transhumanism as well. It's the first transhumanist movie.
Exactly, and not only that, but then you had the female blonde bombshell archetype that was used to manipulate the masses.
Yep, and her name was Hel. Yep, Hel, the Norse goddess.
What do you think, Bruce? Did you?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this for nothing. 300 years ago, people would get on a boat with maybe a 50-60% chance of arriving on the other side of the Atlantic alive, for the promise of a few, maybe 40 acres of free land to work and raise a family. That's how far we've fallen. Right? Life is everywhere, man. You can go and make a life now. It doesn't have to be this way. Mm-hmm. You just got to be able to go off and live an independent life in some way, shape, or form. Become a wood carver, do totem poles, whatever you're going to do, man. But if people start breeding into this great reset system and children are born into it, we're lost. We're lost. It would be like taking a dog that's been in a condo its whole life and letting it loose in a national park.
Well, man, isn't this also a moment though? I mean, this is a moment where people are saying, "Hey, man, I'm not coming back to work for your $20 an hour because it's not worth it. I'd rather just stay home. Why don't you pay us more money?" Now, At some point, when these employers start stepping up to the plate with more money, they'll reach a saturation point where they'll reach a point where everybody's who's over here saying, "Forget it, I don't want to work for that shitty money." All of a sudden, there's gonna reach a threshold, and then one guy will come over, another guy will come over, another guy, and pretty soon they'll figure out, hey, the way to get these guys to come back is to pay them more money and to make less. But the problem with that is, who is mom and pop going to be able to pay a guy $40 an hour to be a cashier? Because that's what it costs to live, man. It costs 40. I mean, at least where I live, it was stated a couple years ago that it would take a couple each making $65 per hour to survive on the right kind of budget, where a third of your money goes to your living and not a penny more. You know, if you're paying more than a third of how much you make to rent, you're never gonna make it. You'll always be in a company store mentality situation, don't you think, Bruce? I mean, so here's another thing. Now, what if they can't throw everybody out? And what if they just say, hey, man, no more private property. You property owners, those buildings over there, forget it, man. The government's going to buy those off you. And then, like they did with the gold, where they gave you, 30 cents on the dollar for your gold when they confiscated it. Well, how about confiscating private property? Could they do that, Bruce? Oh. Is private property confiscation, is that possible?
Well, the real question is there any such thing as private property anymore?
I don't think there ever has been. But
do people really own property in the common law sense anymore? Is it all the straw man? And
right, we're going to talk about that leading into the show today. We were spitballing a little bit before the show, and I was mentioning those mega yachts, those giant mega yachts that Bezos built, the $500 million yacht. All these other people are bailing. They're going straight out to sea. They're being their own nation. They're being their own place, right? Because that's their land. That's their domain. That's their king of their castle. Not only that, the Bezos one has 2 support ships that go with it. He's got one that helicopter lands on, and another one that carries the maintenance crew, whatever. I'm not sure how that one works, but I mean, so it's a whole flotilla basically. It goes out there and operates offshore, and it's its own country at that point. You know, and at that point, that kind of money out there, he can build his own artificial island or go take over an island, or God only knows what kind of stuff they got on that ship. It's huge. It's like a modern-day warship.
Do you notice how capitalism becomes bad when you got all the capital you're ever going to need? Then you can sit back and say how bad it is and jump on your private flotilla or whatever. But in the meantime, we're all back over here, and so the people might be in a position now to take some power back for themselves, to take some value in themselves and say, that they haven't been paying us enough money as it is. You know, the union workers, the construction workers, like, for example, Epic and I are both members of the IBW. So the IBW, you get paid a good amount of money, but it's only enough to live. It's just what you would make if you would have gotten your cost of livings and, you're staying someplace and you made your money. It's just basic money. It's just like, what do they make? Epic, what are you making as a journeyman electrician in Hawaii? What do they make? Do you know? It's like 70 something.
An hour. Well, no, it depends. It depends if it's industrial or
commercial.
Commercial, yeah. But it's up there. Yeah, it's up there.
It's 70.
So it's the same as pretty much the same as your area.
Yeah. Okay. So it's $90 basically, 80 some odd bucks an hour. So you're gonna take 70 some of that at home, and the rest of it's gonna be in your benefits. But what I'm saying is, like I was just saying a moment ago, they said that it would take 2 people making $65 an hour to live here. So if a union electrician is making $70 an hour, he's only making what he needs to make to survive in the environment called the Bay Area in California. Because you know what?
Well, and that changes. If you're in Southern California, it's only $40 an hour, basically, right? So yeah, San Diego.
Yeah. So I mean, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. I was going to change the subject, but you guys got momentum.
No, you can change the subject. We're just talking about the people think union people make a lot of money, and yeah, they're making more money than you, but they're not making a lot of money. They're only making what they make because they have somebody collectively bargaining for them. You're just some schmo making $20 an hour sitting in a cubicle. You got nothing, man. And you're never going to have nothing. And the only reason you even got that is because of what the union people did in the beginning. Because before that, employers you were living in China, man.
Yeah.
You could talk about China, but, look at how bad they work, everybody. Yeah, dude, it was just like that in America too. Go look at the pictures of the kids that used to work before the unions came into play. Go ahead, Bruce.
Seamstresses, yeah.
So one thought that came to my mind is that, as far as the Great Reset goes, because of its lack of discussion, because of its lack of genuine public exposure and elected officials out there backing it. So when they bring people like Mark Carney back to Canada to publish a book and become he's not elected, he's been hired as a consultant by the Liberal Party, but he's a heavyweight, right? Governor of two central banks, England and Canada. And when they start doing stuff like that, it's pretty sure that the debate is going to come out sooner or later, like in the next 6 or 8 or 10 or 20 months. And one thing that crossed my mind is we haven't really heard the carrot yet. There's got to be a carrot here. It can't be just this bad, right? I don't know what the carrot is. My mind is drifting to Aldous Huxley and some kind of like MDMA type drug that people are going to be on 24 hours a day and just everything's good, man. I own nothing and I've never felt better. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Don't you think there's
crackhead? Crackheads are happy when they're high. Doesn't matter they're in an alley. They own nothing and they've never been happier. Give me that rock, man.
There you go. I mean, there's the thing. I mean, you just go. It's just 24 hours at a time, right? So the thing is, man, all you need to do is find a place where you could sleep. And so, there's like over in Japan, they have these death cubicles or whatever. People live in them, man. These little internet cafes where you go in and rent this little room to sit in. People just sit in
by
there.
the hour. Yeah.
But yeah, they just sit in there all day and night, man. Once they get a spot, man, they don't let it go. They just keep going out and putting money in the token box. But just to shut, I mean, it's like a pilot program for what's going to happen in the future, though, don't you think? Because that's the kind of, I mean, I want to just say, listen, I like to give people good ideas for money-making schemes. And when I say scheme, I just mean, a structure. So imagine this scheme. What's the big problem right now? Homelessness, right? The homeless, there's not enough apartments rentable at a price people can afford. What about this, man? All those office spaces out there that used to be office spaces, they're not office spaces anymore. So why not go out and get yourself a small little office building and turn it into a live-to-work space? Because I would guarantee you, because of the new plan and the infrastructure plan that Biden put out, single-family homes are out, multifamily dwellings are in. So I would be willing to bet you that even no matter where you live, the county would be favorable to you making this transition for some of these buildings. And they're probably going to be going up cheap right now, especially you buying them with inflated dollars, Bill? You know what I mean? So what do you think about that? That's a good potential. What about these old malls, these giant malls where Macy's used to be? Turn those things into giant home complexes. You know what I mean? People living in there.
Yeah, anything is possible.
Well, environment controlled, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You made me think about something that I haven't thought about really. The commercial real estate sector, is anybody paying those leases anymore?
Fuck no.
No.
Like does Price Waterhouse still need 3 floors in downtown Manhattan? I mean, that's got to be like $250,000 rent a month, if not more, right? And commercial real estate is really kind of a bedrock economic indicator in the old system.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, look, guys, I can't read anything that's going on now, man, because all of the metrics we use are gone. I feel like maybe the carrot is a food replicator. Maybe they've invented a food replicator, like right from Star Trek, and you don't have to worry about food anymore, man. Punch in number 72, you get a nice bowl of mushroom soup.
Millions,
they have, I think, yeah.
Millions and millions and millions of square feet of commercial space. Millions.
Yeah.
So everyone's working from home, huh? What's going to happen to that? That ain't happening no more. Those people are gone. 70% of those workers are non-essential. And they're sitting there on the tit right now, and they're not paying rent or their mortgage because they don't know what's going to happen. So I mean, what's going to happen? That's the thing. It's like that is the Great Reset, right? I mean,
So,
go ahead.
what percentage of the population do you think has to get, as Clint Eastwood would say in Outlaw Josie Wales, plumb mad dog mean before this thing gets shut down? And why are so many people not waking up to it? Do you think they're tying a generational thing into it? Like we're all near retirement age, the three of us on this call, in the next 10 years or so. I'll probably tech right till I'm 65 because it's easy to do. I can do it from home, and I'm good at it. I've been doing it for 25 years. Why stop? I can still do it, right? But do you think there's a generational aspect to this whole plan, the way they're sort of sneaking it in?
Mm-hmm. I do.
So the baby boomers are going to be leaving. The people with all the money are going to be leaving soon. Gen X will be really the last generation still holding the dream of the middle class. And this is why I think that fulfill their plan. They may unveil it in the next 18 months, but it'll be like over 25 years. Okay, so for the first 5 years, it's going to be like one of those big programs they brought in, like the social safety net that was brought in the United States and Canada, the New Deal or whatever. But again, that was kind of a great reset, right? So the New Deal was the beginning of governments going into massive debt, right? Borrowing against the productivity of the people.
Mm-hmm.
That really is what underwrites national credit. It's the productivity of the people, right? And that's why countries can go into far greater levels of debt than individuals, because the debtor never dies, right? Try and get a credit card with $100,000 limit with $10,000 in the bank when you're 88 years old. It's not going to happen.
Well,
that guy's going to Vegas.
Is your work ethic and production, is that a natural thing, or is that whole thing been programmed into you to make you think that it's good for you to go and work down there at the company and save money for the company and give the company all your time and energy? If you see somebody punching in at the wrong time, they're stealing from the company. You know what I mean? I mean, you're a company man.
Well, productivity is required at all stages of life. If you were to roll back and buy a tiny house and have a garden and a chicken coop and try to simplify your life,
Mm-hmm.
you'd be amazed how much you have to manage your time to get stuff done. And you have to be productive. You have to keep working. And really, productivity is something that's deeply embedded in us. It's never going to go away. And I hate to say this, but in a sense, if there's one thing the Protestants add to the global contribution of spiritual wisdom, it's that, the work ethic, and idle hands are the work of the devil. It's good for human beings to be busy, right? We can admit this, right? We do our worst shit when we're not busy. Right? And if you get into a slump of not being busy that goes weeks and months, just look at you're gonna wake up in a Philip K. Dick novel, right? So you got to stay productive, right? And you got to get stuff done. I got nobody cracking a whip at me now. Nobody. I set my own deadlines and everything, but I keep aggressive timelines. I like to but it's self-generated productivity. I enjoy the work I'm doing. So I would say the highest level of freedom you can achieve as a human being is complete commitment to the most meaningful work you can find. Maybe that's how the yogis get it figured out, that those spiritual exercises and the meditations are the most meaningful work a human being can do. I'm going to do it with my whole heart. And they go and they do it. You see it in farmers, you see it in craftspeople, you see it in all kinds of people, right? The dark side of productivity is when you're in the corporate machine. They're taking all your best energy, giving you, as you say, Jimmy, just enough to get by on a month-by-month basis. Whatever quality of life you fit into. Are you Banana Republic? Are you Gap? Or are you Old Navy?
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing. They're marketing you into a kind of lifestyle now. It's like, I thought the British would be the first out of the gate to do this, right? Because they've always been the most structured people, sort of weaning people into a loser class the moment they don't go to A levels in their education, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but no, it seems as though the rest of us have caught up, and we're we're giving them a run for their money in this kind of asinine way of living.
Well, all I know is that it seems like we're all going nowhere fast, and no one can really figure out what's going on because so much information is coming at us at a rapid fire pace every single day. It's like we used to have one bullet point a week maybe, and then it turned into 2 and 3, and then it's like 2. When Trump was in office, it was like 3 a day, and now it's just like the nonstop assault coming at us from every direction, and we're sitting here trying to make decisions about the future. Meanwhile, all of a sudden, everything seems to have gone back to normal. It's like everywhere I go here in California, Northern California, no stores are requiring masks. Only for people that work there have them on, and people are still wearing them, but lots of people are wearing them under their chins or whatever. Just walking around with a mask under their chin. But it seems like things are all of a sudden going back to normal. So it makes me wonder, like, if everything goes back to normal, are those stimulus going to keep coming? Because, I mean, if they look around and go, hey, look, everything's back to normal now. Well, you really don't need that stimulus anymore. Really don't need to be paying that extra unemployment to these people, do we? I mean, that's really why these people aren't going back to work, because we're giving them a little bit of unemployment money. Now, you stay taking that money away from them, well, you'll be going right back to work now, won't they? What do you think? You think they will go right back to work if they take away the unemployment? Because, I mean...
broke, yeah. What Roosevelt did was the Hoover Dam was like one of the big ones, right? Where the people, they just left the Dust Bowl wherever they were, and they packed up and, left wife and kids at home and worked on the dam in tent cities and all that stuff. Kind of like the people went to Halliburton KBR in Iraq or something, the same kind of thing. They went to where the money was. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to make some kind of massive public works projects, maybe to transition people into that kind of way of thinking, just get people used to, being a what do they call that, traveler, to go out there and do this work. And one of the things that might do it, I mean, we're talking about this weird UFO disclosure thing. I'm telling you, there's something up with that. There is something up with that. Like the way, the fact that we know this technology is out there now and they say it's not ours, I think it probably is. But still, what does that mean? Is it going to be a public works project that we need to compete and make this happen also, right? Like we're going to have to build now and make this technology catch up with these extra dimensional beings or whatever they are. So something's going on.
I couldn't agree more, man. There's just something in the air. They're putting so many things out there now that, it's just, you can't keep up, right? It's like they're siloing distractions now. Okay, this percentage of the population will go with the UFO story. These people are locked into prophetic narratives in the Abrahamic religion. These people are locked into this. These people are locked into that. There's a different distraction strategy for everybody. But I've never in my life, Epic, seen this level of cognitive dissonance in people. You got morning shows now running banners like, Good Morning America and stuff, doing stories and running banners, ditch your unvaccinated friends. Meanwhile, there's a very large and healthy debate going on about the vaccine, largely led now by competent medical officials with the credentials to legitimately debate this topic. They're being shut out from any kind of widespread exposure. And this is why I still have hope that it's really like now or never. People are either going to get it or they're not going to get it. And what is it that they're trying to get? That, maybe your government is expedient enough to do things you never thought they would be capable of doing to fulfill a bottom line or a mandate you're not aware of. But I don't think any reasonable person can look at what's going on in the world now and say that this is normal, and that the rush by government and media to get us to inject ourselves, with what is clearly stated to be an experimental vaccine, voiding life insurance policies and all of these sorts of things, this is the time for people to step into the debate now. It's almost like the universe is mandating it. And it's almost like if we don't get this right, we fail we fail a consent test, either to withhold or to grant our consent. But you can't be apathetic. If you don't speak up, you're perceived to consent now. And this is why I have such contempt for my Canadian brethren. This is not a time to be apathetic in global history. Not a time for apathy. You have to have an opinion about this. You can't not have an opinion about this. And the level of cognitive dissonance is still leaving us with a lot of people who don't have an opinion about this.
Well,
do me
one.
Oh, go ahead.
Hey, do me one favor though. If you're going to continue to talk about this, Michelle Pfeiffer is the word we use for that V word, so we don't get
V word. Yeah.
Just
V
so
for
you know,
vendetta,
try to remember if you could, because we're on YouTube and I don't want to get censored out.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So hey,
I think we're probably moving off that subject.
All right,
so
go ahead.
But I think that the word cognitive dissonance, I mean the term, I think it's interesting. You hear it all the time in the media now. I didn't hear about it hardly ever until this cycle. I mean, this last year or so, and especially the last month or so. I mean, I'm hearing it on like every major network all the time. I'm hearing about it. And it's funny to me that what this term would suddenly just show up, because what it means is it means you're spun, right? You're spun out. You're spun. You're not able to focus on anything. And when you're spun and you're dizzy, you look for the first thing that you can focus on to give you, some put you at ease and get your vision back so you can see clearly. So it's like musical chairs in a way, where all this information is thrown at us and all these wild things are happening all at once. It's the disclosure, it's the Michelle Pfeiffer, it's the lockdowns, it's all these things going on, political things, insurrection, whatever it is, right? And all of a sudden you just have to, you can only focus on one. Which one's it going to be? You know, it's like spinning the wheel. Which one's going to come up? Which one are you going to choose, right? And I think that that's how they're going to classify people. I think that's how they're going to start categorizing people, because everybody's in a state like that, right? Everybody almost is in a state like that right now. So they're not able to focus on all those things, generally speaking. Like, only pick one. And you notice it all the time. People are narrow-minded about what they choose to engage on and like really be passionate about and argue about. They don't have a wide variety anymore. Hardly ever. It's not everyone, but it just seems like something's got them. It's got their craw, so to speak, right? And it's because of that cognitive dissonance, because they're spun out and they're looking for something to focus on and put their attention on to retrieve their sanity back, right? For lack of a better word.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in a massive abuse cycle right now. And, when people pop, what's going to happen now is, the three of us in this conversation tonight gradually worked ourselves into a worldview against the popular current of thought, right? Sort of went colored outside the margins. And over time and through due diligence, conversation, research, what have you, came to an idea of what's going on this planet. Every detail we might share as a personal prejudice or bias as to what's going on and who's influencing it might be the only details that differ. But we're all sort of at this precipice right now, this X moment in the human timeline that seems so monumental, and in every way, even in the physical form that's going to go forward. I mean, we haven't even brought transhumanism and technology into the Great Reset, and this is why I say we need an incredible discussion on this publicly to know what we're going into, because this is bigger than the Industrial Revolution. This is bigger than 1890, and the transformation in the last 130 years is monumental. Again, look at our breeding patterns. Okay, for millennia we bred in families. Okay, look at our breeding patterns now. Are those sustainable? It costs a lot of money for families to be separated. You realize that, right? It was really let's call it one of the excesses of the amount of money made by the baby boomers is that divorce began to be popular. Do you know why it wasn't so popular before that? Everybody says it was social stigma and all this. That may have played a role in it. Most people couldn't afford it, right? They couldn't
Right.
afford to raise kids and keep a nice condo on the side where you can keep your, whatever. It's the philandering executive, the caricature from the 70s. And they really played that stuff up in the 70s. They made you feel like you were half a fag if you weren't cheating on your wife, man. Everybody was having fun but you. Then the 80s came in and it got a bit gay. Simon & Simon and Magnum PI, a bunch of single men in their 40s running around in ultra-tight jeans. Am I the only one who noticed that? And
Magnum. Yeah, with the short shorts. Yeah.
yeah. So
Even the NBA had the short shorts.
Yeah. So this is fertility rituals are one of the basis of culture, by the way. Fertility and death rituals are the basis of all cultures, tribal in other words. So when you think about this within the scope of like, what's his name there, Sir Robert Fraser, the guy who wrote The Golden Bough, we're in an epic moment here. We're making decisions now that are going to affect the human race for millennia, or send us right back to pushing rocks again for 2,000 years till we can get to indoor plumbing and digital pornography.
There's a great book written. It's a fictional book, but the guy who wrote it. I'm trying to remember his name. It escapes me at the moment, but it was about this nexus that we're at now, where humanity splits off into three distinct classes. One's the Artilects. One's you might have read the book. One is the Terrans, the people who go back to the earth, stay like grounded, like we are, basically, in the farms and, just abandoning technology. And then the, what do they call the other ones? Basically the ones that just leave the earth. So the Artilects are the ones who take on all the modifications to where they start, modifying themselves genetically and with computer assistants, tie up to neural networks and that kind of thing, and become superhuman through technology. And the other ones basically just bail. They leave the planet. They go off world, right? And then the rest of us. So it becomes a fight really between us and the cyborgs, basically, right? Because we can't compete with them. It's not a fair fight. But that's the thing. We supply the resources through our labor. They find a way to do it with robotics or whatever. But it's mass farming versus the Amish, essentially, right? And I don't know how you resolve that, because basically that's what the reset, if you want to call it that, was probably the best term still, is about. Because if you drop everybody to the floor and set the floor, you don't drop everybody to the floor, but you set the floor, they just can't drop below it. They'll be less likely to revolt. They'll have their bread, they'll have their their basic stuff, right? And then the people, like we're talking about, the uber wealthy, they can do whatever they want to modify their bodies and have their super yachts and travel out in space, whatever they want to do. I mean, Bezos, I'm convinced that guy's going to fake his own death. He's going up in the Blue Horizon rocket with his brother. It's like a 6-minute flight or something like that. It might not even be that long. Perfect opportunity for him to like check out and not really check out, pull an Elvis. Everybody hates his guts right now. I can totally see that happening. I think it's actually highly likely. I wish I could put odds on it. I bet you in England they do have odds on it. They have odds on everything. You can bet on anything in London, that kind of stuff. But I do see that, the uber wealthy are just going to disappear. We're not going to see them. We're not going to know what they're up to. They're going to have their own thing. They got their 10,000 acres in Montana or their $500 million yacht, right? The rest of us will be struggling around in our cities. And at some point, they're not going to let us. That's what I'm afraid of. They're not going to let you travel. They are going to start restricting travel. Like, you'll have to get a movement permit to leave your, UBI assisted, house in Los Angeles, your habitat in Los Angeles. You can travel anywhere along the I-5 corridor, let's say. But then if you want to go over to Arizona or Hawaii or whatever, you need permission to do so, because, you got to make it sustainable. You got to make sure you have enough people, they move where the room is, right? So you don't, you live in harmony with the environment, kind of thing. That's going to be an excuse. It's all going to be green, right? Yeah, I totally see that happen. I don't think that'll happen in 18 months, but the 2030 agenda, I mean, that's really what it's called, Agenda 2030 from UN. That's what it's all about. And then 2045, the singularity is supposed to arrive. Whether that really happens by that date or not, I'm not positive of, but I'd say it's pretty likely. It looks like it might even beat it pretty significantly, actually.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna reprime this conversation in same topic but a slightly different light, okay? And just try to make us all think about something, and it'll show us what we've been through and what we might be going into. In the past, and the reason I know this is because I live in the past now. I live about, besides this kick-ass X1 Carbon Lenovo ThinkPad with a solid-state drive and a couple cell phones lying around, I pretty much live 100 years in the past, right? Maybe 300 in an earth bag house in the rainforest. And I grow food and I harvest animals and I do all of these sorts of things. I live a different kind of life. And one of the things that slowly I've become aware of is how much better life is when everything is done intentionally. Okay, so when you grow your food and you harvest your food and you prepare your food to eat, I am fully convinced that the state of mind you're in and the pride you feel in harvesting food you planted, whatever it be, meat stock or yucca or corn or whatever, the avocado trees in bloom now, and all of that has an effect on your overall well-being. Like, just think of your grandmother making homemade soup for you when you were a kid. Where do you find food like that, right? And it's not just the ingredients; it's the intentional energy that went into it, right? I mean, there's people out there making $1 million a year selling bottles of holy water they pray over. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, but all of that's gone now. You know, to quote Roy Batty, like tears in the rain. It's all gone. Everything's coming out of a can. And even if I bring this up once in a while when I'm on radio shows, people get freaked out by this. But when I came over here, I was 10 years a vegan, with the exception of maybe 10 grams of cheese a month. Okay, but I didn't drink milk. I didn't eat any other dairy products. I didn't eat eggs. I was like a full vegan for a decade. A decade, okay? Now I live over here in Central America for 7 years, and I can harvest and butcher any mid-size animal, a lamb, a goat, or a pig. Cow's a whole other thing. Don't even get me started on that. That would take about 6 months, 3 or 4 attempts with an experienced person to learn how to do it. But when I eat that meat, it's absolutely delicious. And I remember what I contemplate is the whole life cycle up here, and the bittersweetness of life, and all of these things that are just part of living this simple life where everything is done intentionally, manually, and deliberately in full consciousness. And look at how much of that has been extracted from the world you live in. And ask yourself, who's doing all that stuff for you now? Grandma's soup. And what are you missing as a result of it not following the chain of love and intentionality that goes back to the more, albeit primitive model of living, which is the family, the homestead, and you know, the way human beings have lived on this planet for millennia, basically millennia, except for brief periods where cities come together, right? And
Yeah.
they've always been here. There was like 1 million people at the height of Rome. That's a big city. Think about it. And nobody drove there. Everything had to be like an ox cart away, or some kind of man-carried sedan where you had to put your walking sandals on and go walk. Imagine a city of 1 million people where you pretty much would have been able to walk the whole thing. Just contemplate the density and debauchery of that place. So it's not that cities are a new thing, right? But what's going on now in this new thing is this. I'm really worried about this complete separation from nature. And that's a big part of the Great Reset, too, as well, right? They're going to set entire... Have you guys read the documents? Have you actually read Klaus Schwab? I read the whole thing on air when I was at that other place.
Yeah, that was
right?
good. Yeah, that was good when you read that on air, that you actually went through the whole thing, you know, piece by piece, because that was at the time when they were saying that it was fake, that it was a conspiracy theory. That you'll own nothing and love it was a conspiracy theory. After the guy just came out and said it, wearing that uniform from space or whatever, you know, he's wearing some weird outfit. Good.
You know, they got the feedback from the world pretty clearly on Agenda 2030, and everybody thought Agenda 2030 was a butt plug. The Great Reset is a butt plug. Agenda 2030 redraft. So if you've read Agenda 2030, you know what the Great Reset is. What's even spookier about this whole thing is, look, who the hell is Klaus Schwab? What exactly is the World Economic Forum, and why is the entire world taking directives from a private institution started by some crazy German dude? Like, who is this guy?
Yeah,
those Davos things.
Over? Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's entirely. Where's the money coming from? Who's donating the money for this guy to fly around in private jets? And this guy?
Yeah, some of the wildest things I've heard in the last 15 years are all from the Davos get-togethers they have, World Economic Forum. You know, the mind-reading technology, the I own nothing. That was originally a girl from Denmark. She's the equivalent of like a congresswoman, senator would be here, but that was her gig. She wrote that article about I own nothing and love it. About how the robots, the drones deliver her fondue thing and all that stuff, right? And it made a big splash. That was like, what's that, 2011 or something like that? It was a while back. And then, then Schwab comes on, and like I said, where'd he come from all of a sudden? You never even saw his face, basically, in the old ones. Now he's coming out there like, hey, it's me, Carl Schwab, Hey, you guys love me, right? Yeah, let's check out my uniform, right?
It kind of reminds me.
They've always had weird things.
Kind of reminds me of this.
As the 21st century began, human evolution was at a turning point. Natural selection, the process by which the strongest, the smartest, the fastest reproduced in greater numbers than the rest, a process which had once favored the noblest traits of man, now began to favor different traits. Most science fiction of the day predicted a future that was more civilized and more intelligent. But as time went on, things seemed to be heading in the opposite direction, a dumbing down. How did this happen? Evolution does not necessarily reward intelligence. With no natural predators to thin the herd, it began to simply reward those who reproduced the most and left the intelligent to become an endangered species.
Having kids is such an important decision.
We're just waiting for the right time. It's not something you want to rush into, obviously.
No way.
Oh, shit, I'm pregnant again!
I got too many damn kids.
Six 999 4761 626-999-4761. Give us a call. Tell us what you think about this. Are you going quietly into the night? I don't know, man. $2,600 a month buys a lot of weed. Woohoo! It's the new world order, man. It's in the microcosm. Hey Bruce, one of the chatters over at Into the Microcosm with Jimmy Jean's Strike Zone said you sound like Dick Cavett. That's a compliment, man.
Well, is it?
I think so. You didn't like Dick Cavett?
Dick Cavett was awesome, man.
I thought so too.
Who was he again? He's like
he interviewed everybody, dude.
He did,
everybody.
man.
That guy, I'm telling you.
Cavett, the skinny dude.
Yeah.
Fairly skinny.
He was
big head, thin neck.
Everybody wanted to
I know.
hang out and talk with Dick Cavett, man. He's smoking a cigarette. He's having scotch.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. Okay. I'll take that as a compliment and thank you. And it doubles down on what I said in the first hour about how intelligent conversation was in the 70s and 80s. I was born in 66. I was watching hardcore news shows by the time I was 14 or 15, leading up to my journalism degree. I was always curious about what's going on in the world. I remember sitting around watching some of that stuff, like the McNeil Lehrer News Hour on PBS.
So now you're exciting me. Now this is a topic worth discussing.
You sound just like Dick Cavett right there, by the way.
You did, but
fuck, you guys are freaking me out here now.
So so this needs to be. I think we should talk about this though, because this is an interesting subject. where have all the journalists gone exactly? Did they end up crashing? Did their Mercedes smash into a tree after they wrote articles, and then now nobody writes articles anymore? Nobody gets smart. Nobody asks questions. You know?
Well, I gradually. I have the answer to your question, but go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say. I mean, look at where's the Hunter S. Thompsons? Where's where are the people that used to be there? I mean, even look, I did some research and I'm looking at a special that ABC News did, and they used to bust in on people and ask questions with cameras in their face. Okay, and
Yeah.
but it's turned into this giant infomercial on the cable news networks where basically they're just paying for news packages that agree with a certain viewpoint. But there really is no journalism per se, because most of the people that were doing any kind of investigative journalism ended up dead, didn't they? The thing is, so that where have all the journalists gone? And so there is no one with the courage to stand up and say what needs to be said anymore. Go ahead.
Okay, dude, they made an example of people in the 80s, man. They killed that dude at the San Diego Mercury Star who
News.
broke the CIA.
Yeah, San Jose Mercury News.
The CIA. Finish the story, man. Tell the listeners.
No, I'm just reminding you, this is San Jose Mercury News, a story. I can't remember the name of the guy, but the guy's, his car crashed out or whatever, going 100 miles an hour or something.
Oh, they killed him, man.
Oh,
no, you're thinking of the other guy who crashed.
Michael Hastings is the guy that crashed. Yeah. They executed him, no doubt. He was writing a story about General Stanley McChrystal.
Mm-hmm.
And when they killed him, and he knew that the car there's something wrong with the car. He went to go borrow the neighbor's car because he suspected something was up. It was like pleading with her, and she couldn't do it. And he died that night in that car driving out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And he coincidentally, it wasn't coincidence. His fiance prior to that was killed in an ambush in Afghanistan in 2000. So whatever it was. No, it wasn't 2000, but early on in the Afghanistan war. So. Yeah, I mean, it became dangerous to become an investigative journalist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, when you go to the 80s, the San Jose Mercury News, the guy who broke the cocaine CIA connection and rock cocaine, basically the Snowfall series on FX now.
Mm-hmm.
They did that guy dirty, man. I think they just drove him crazy. He committed suicide, or I can't remember if they killed him and there's quite a few journalists that have happened to. A lot of accidents covering wars now among journalists, right? It's basically tacitly understood now that you'll get killed, right?
Well,
there's still good independent journalism, but it's blog posts now. Nobody is going to do it at a masthead. And the publishers won't even pay for your funeral. They're probably in on it.
Well,
the guy who had the sex change operation that revealed the story to WikiLeaks? They ambushed those guys with a helicopter, man. Those journalists. That's why that was such a big deal. So, I mean,
you guys?
It's no joke.
Do you guys remember the National Enquirer and the Weekly World News that used to be at your checkout stand? Well, there was a moment during the Bush administration where it became clearly obvious that all those years that we were seeing those stories in the National Enquirer, those stories, the outrageous stories, were there to hide the fact that they were actually doing real news over there. And they had a whole bunch of dirt on Bush and the Bush family. And when 9/11 happened, they got a quick anthrax scare over there. And subsequently, I don't even know if the National Enquirer is still in business. I think they're gone. I could be wrong on that, but Bruce, did you ever notice that that these weird newspapers were they were the alternative media before the alternative media, and they put all these crazy stories in there just to hide the other stories that were there under the dancing bears, so to speak, to keep the heat off. So they had to do it in such a way. They could only put the news out that way on that paper because in those days there was no internet. So you might say that the National Enquirer was sort of a forefront to what we see now as called the alternative media. The very format, the very subjects talked about. You'd be talking about politics right next to talking about a Bigfoot, right next to talking about Bat Boy, right next to talking, But the thing is there was real investigative journalism going on, but it was hidden in there. And it's kind of the same thing what we have in the alternative media now. There's a lot of investigative journalism, and it's hidden in there because you got to fight your way through all the disinformation that's been put into the mix now at this point. So that's what makes it so hard is to have the discernment to figure out which is which. And since you don't have a trusted name or a stalwart of unabashed truth, there's nobody around. I mean, there used to have the daddy figure who said he'd sit at the right hand of Satan, which is Walter Cronkite. And Walter Cronkite up at the Bohemian Grove. So, I mean, even the people that we trusted back in the day who we thought we could trust, it turns out maybe we couldn't trust those people either. So maybe we've been wrong all this time, and anyone who pops up who wants to reveal the truth, they get a bullet in the head. Unless they start talking about purple people eaters in the next sentence. And then you got to discount everything they just got done saying a minute ago. Because, as far as you're concerned, there's no such thing as purple people eater. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the thing with Walter Cronkite was amazing. I mean, he did give the cremation of care oratory. That's him. That's his voice.
So there's also this thing in society where people who go outside the boundaries of what is acceptable speech in public will generally remain silent. They'll form involuntary codes of silence in secret societies. So an example of what I'm saying would be the dudes who went into the tunnels in Vietnam. If you ever get a chance to talk to one of those guys, and that was their job on a full or 2 tours or more tours of duty in Vietnam, and they were tunnel rats.
I had a friend who was,
Yeah, it's unbelievable the stories they have to tell. There's, and there's so much of this, that's just sort of kept out. What's happened here? Okay, our imaginative mind, which connects with the other planes of existence when it's operating properly, when it's populated with nothing but our desires, its consciousness is a disaster. You'd be better off being a dog and just operating off of impulse. But when a human being is operating properly, there's more than one reality operating in the interpretation of events. And so this is where you get all the mythologies and all of the weird things coming from the tribal record of the human race, and weird little anomalies like the Dogon tribe in Africa having better astrology on the Sirius constellation than NASA until they got sufficient equipment to see that far. How did they know that stuff, right? And in the Industrial Revolution completely separated us from our internal selves. And we're living with the spiritual bankruptcy of that now. Because I'll tell you this vivid inner life that a human being has, it's no accident. We're supposed to be spending more time in that realm. And when you look at the Industrial Revolution, it was the ultimate externalization of human beings. And they did it very specifically with time. The clock, okay? I mean, like before 1890 in the Industrial Revolution and the work schedule at factories and offices, man, people did up. I shit you not. The sun got them up. It's just, it's natural to sleep. It's natural to wake. Everything has changed, okay? And if you don't remember this and you can't contextualize this, you're in no position to be making a decision about the leapfrog we're about to make now. Whichever way we go, it's going to be epic now. And see, the tendency of the human race now is to expect evolution in every generation, because technology, for the most part, with massive price gouging, has facilitated that. Beginning with the television, the radio, the television, the automobile, the single unit home, the American lifestyle, all of these sorts of things, the computer. And the next phase of this is something that apparently we can't go into in our present state. And this is what the gate is. This is what the Great Reset is about. Whatever future they have planned, and they have it planned. Believe me, we're staying mainly socially and politically centered in our discussion tonight, and economics, which is a very rational Dick Cavett type discussion. But there's a backdrop to this. There's a multidimensionality to this that makes the story far richer and far more consequential when you understand what a human being is. I mean, we're only using 5% of ourselves now. Why don't we create societies that can get human populations up to 10 or 15% of brain utility? That would create a utopia, an ideal society. But the schism they've created and the separation from our better internal instincts and our better intuition that they created with this modern world, with the false light, the 24-hour schedule, the breaking of the circadian rhythm, all of these things, they seem inconsequential. But if you were to sit down with a piece of foolscap and a lead pencil and make a list of all the incidental things that have come in with the Industrial Revolution, it would begin to sound a lot like a CIA interrogation. Okay, fluorescent light, okay, bad water, and and look at the language coming out now. It's full-on prison language. Lockdown. There's a knife missing in the kitchen. The prisons are going into lockdown till we find that knife. Lockdown.
And you got smart with the contact tracers, and they call in the extraction team to pull you out. Just like in prison, they got an extraction team where they come in, and it's the biggest, baddest dudes. They just come in and kick the shit out of you and drag you out.
Yeah. So basically, whoever's running this show down here, who's ever running this farm down here, it's an open bidding process and it's fair. And it seems as though China lowballed everybody, and they've been given the commission to run this farm now. This is what seems to be going on from my perspective, because everything is shifting over there. Their COVID troubles ended 4 months after they began. They've had very, very few COVID troubles, right? Their economies do you know that the vaccine isn't even mandatory in China? Like, it's completely voluntary. There's no national vaccination program in China. Why don't we know that? Why don't we have intelligent panel news shows where these things are discussed? A global context is given. Why is it always, the news always done in this grade school social shaming mental container? Like,
and
there's no news. That's why you have to really hunt for it.
And demographically targeted too. So it's it's targeted directly to the people who wore the mask and you didn't question it. Those people are waiting for guys in white coats to tell them what to do. They're waiting for guys in uniforms with badges on their chest to tell them where to go. They tell them when to bend over and let me take your temperature. You're just, hey, hold on a second. You're going back in your cell here in a few minutes, but now that you're out here moving around, and it's like midnight, and shouldn't be anybody really moving around, but you're out here. Let me sniff your breath. Okay, and then while I'm at it, let me sniff your butt, too, just to make sure you're not, hiding anything up there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why are they in our ass 24 hours a day? What is so, important to know about us? Why
it's
is
an outrage machine, right?
Exactly.
Either side. I mean, if you go to one side, they're scaring you on that side, basically, and the other side, this outrage machine of Fox and Tucker Carlson out there telling you how everybody's out to, do something bad to you. It's ridiculous. I mean, they're two sides of the same coin. They always have been, and it gets worse and worse every day. There's no news. There's hardly any news. Those investigative journalists we're talking about, they hardly exist anymore. They're so hard to find.
It's all opinion. It's mostly opinion.
All opinion.
Yeah. And it's rated out there though as though it's some sort of educated opinion. But I was going to ask you, Bruce, in what you were saying earlier, at what level, when we reach a certain level of intelligence and a certain intellectual capacity, at what point does the human race look at the menial bullshit that goes on and just decide it's not. I mean, you got smart and you realized that you were being sold. The whole time it's been a game. We've been slaves the whole time. Now you figured it out. So what are you gonna do now? Because there was a moment when the actual slaves that were here in America got freed. There was a lot of them slaves that looked around at each other and went, "Huh? What do you mean I'm free? What's that mean? What does it mean to be free?" A lot of people didn't even know it, and they were scared to do it. That meant that they had to go out and, get some money and get a place to live and do all the stuff when, they're, the whole time they were taken care of. And that's exactly what's going to happen to the people that have been taken care of for the last year and a half on this thing when this gravy train ends. Of course, it would be the hottest economy in the history of mankind. We talked about that before Trump even left office, and speculating if he ever why they wouldn't let him get in the office again. And if he got in again, it would have been the worst pandemic in the history of mankind, because there's no way they would have let Trump be in charge of the hottest economy in the mankind when he's got a son, 2 sons, and a daughter that could be president. The Trump dynasty would have never ended with the $7 trillion worth of money that was signed out under his watch. And now, I guess they changed up the plan, because instead of moving forward with what they had planned, all of a sudden everything's gone back to normal, and it's the hottest economy in the history of the world. And it's all because of Biden and everything he's been doing. Huh. Yeah, I don't think so, man. But that's exactly what's going on, don't you think? What do you guys think? 626-999-4761, 626-999-4761. Go ahead, Evan.
I'm curious. Like, we haven't heard a lot from Europe lately, and I'm really thinking that that's same with China, actually. Like, this whole thing, the 25th is when I know I'm going back to this disclosure thing a little bit, but because that's going to come out. That's going to be a game changer. It'd be nothing at first, but people are still going to act on it. Nations are, right? And then at the same time, we talked about China building these ghost cities that they're right there for people to move into, aren't there? They just need workers to work there and move over there, along that new Silk Road. So what about dropping the borders? How many people would actually just go to China? China offers to pay them a good wage and put them up in a place. They'll get evicted here. I think it's quite possible. So I think the brain drain here would be right there too, labor drain.
Yeah, well, that would be the harmonization, because then you take all the trained people, the college-educated people that are here, that have value someplace else in another country. Another country is going to value somebody with skills that they don't have there. And I remember...
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, it's going good. Hang on a second. I remember when I wanted to go to Australia, when I was younger, I always wanted to move to Australia, man. And
Me too.
You couldn't get into Australia. They would never let you just come there and be a citizen unless you had certain qualities. Like, for example, they were looking for high-tech people. So if you were a high-tech worker, you could have gotten on some sort of a meal ticket or gravy train on your way in to some sort of an immigration situation. But let's think about let's get to the caller. Caller 336. Where are you calling from? Who are you, man?
Yeah, this is Brandon out of North Carolina, man.
Hey, man, how's it going, brother? Thanks for calling.
It's going good. Yeah, I rarely call into these shows, but I've got to share this with you.
Cool.
Conspiracy theory, whatever.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Here's what's up. What's going on is China released this virus because of that upcoming trade war.
Okay. So
yeah.
So making the transition to the Chinese or the Asian system being the power block in the new world, is that what you mean?
Well, Trump wasn't playing around with China like everybody else was placating China.
Right.
They did this. That's just my thoughts on it, man.
I think you're right too, though, because what I see is, I see that when Biden took office, or when Biden became the resident, I see the enemy changed from China to Russia. And, when Trump was in office, he was not taking any shit from China. He was hammering them on deals. He was getting stuff in order. And so, I don't think Trump would have laid down for a Taiwan takeover, but I do think, on the other hand, Biden will lay down for a Taiwan takeover. What do you think about that?
Well, I'm just saying that it just seems awfully convenient that you were just talking about the best economy that we've ever had.
Right.
And it gets crashed down, and we're just going to hand it over Biden's just going to hand it over to everybody. Here, $2,000 every month.
Yeah.
For everybody. Who's going to pay for that, man? We keep printing money.
Yeah.
We're printing money. Where's that money coming from?
Well, I don't know, but they keep printing it up and it keeps working down at the store. So I mean, it's obviously not coming out of our taxes. We know that. We're not our taxes.
Yeah, I know, man. But dude, I can't even get the Burger King over here across the street to stay open after 6 o'clock on a Saturday night. Come on.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, but look at what's been done to us. People's, like we said earlier, the habits, it takes 90 days. You want to quit smoking cigarettes? Like, I got to quit smoking cigarettes. It takes 90 days to really get over it. It just takes 90 days to build a new habit. And so when we went under these measures for the first 90 days, we got locked down. And then think about this. We had 3 other 90-day periods that went by subsequent to that. So we got retrained in the first 90 days, and then the next 90 days, we got shown exactly how we were going to have to be from now on. All right? And now here we are, where people are just acquiescing to whatever they're told. And I mean,
right.
The economy in the way that it could have been, I don't know what's going to happen now because there's clear supply line problems. I mean, there's clear import-export issues going on. You see boats stacked up down in Long Beach. Retail environments, they buy based on what they sold last month. They didn't hardly sell anything last month, so they don't have that much money, so they got to buy more stuff, but they buy bigger items that fill the shelves because they can't afford to buy a bunch of different items, and now those items are stacked up waiting. We've got meat plants closing. We've got Biden paying farmers to destroy their crops or else they won't get funding next year. We see all of these things lining up for destruction. So, I mean...
And you're in Northern California, right?
That's right.
Okay. People are leaving that place in droves, aren't they?
They are. Yeah, they are.
Aren't they going to other... they're going to Texas and places where they don't have a state income tax?
Yeah, they're going to those kind of places. They're going anywhere they can go, but there's this big push right now.
Mass exodus.
Yeah, there's a big push right now, though. This Gavin Newsom governor is under scrutiny right now. They're trying to come at him with a recall. And so man, I listen to talk radio constantly, so yeah. I know what's going on, but yeah, so
I'm
listen,
just saying.
I was going to tell you, so right now what's going on here is there's a bunch of advertisements going on TV and stuff where it's the California comeback. Gavin Newsom's going to make
come to California.
Yeah, Gavin Newsom's going to give everybody $2,000 plus $500 for their kid. And he's got all this money for businesses to give businesses, small businesses or whatever. And people don't realize that when these people start talking about small businesses, that's up to 500 employees. It's not,
right.
But they sell it like it's just a mom and pop down the street. Mom, grandma, they're all working together at the little store. That's what everybody
with
thinks.
3 kids in high school.
Yeah, exactly. They think when small businesses, there's tax cuts for small businesses. How many people work at Tesla?
I don't know.
Is Tesla a small business? I don't know. It might be, because the thing is, here's the thing: is you can have 500 permanent employees. You're still a small business, but guess what? You can hire temporary employees. They don't work for you.
Right.
So, you see how that works?
Well, I mean, there's always a loophole somewhere.
That's
man.
right. And it's
but
always...
ultimately, I'll let you go, man. I just wanted to say...
I appreciate you calling, man.
We were burning up so good economically.
We were.
That China had to do something. And they put that virus on us.
Mm-hmm.
And they shut us down. Look what they did, man.
And not just China, though.
Yeah.
You guys have more enemies than you think. When this Wuhan thing is fully investigated, that virus will be determined to have been partially funded by Fauci and others.
Uh-huh.
Prototype.
I absolutely believe that, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Prototype prototyped in Canada and then shipped for deployment to Wuhan. It was done in Manitoba, Canada. It's a big deal in Canada right now. The opposition parties have demanded the report on the firing of 2 virologists at this level 4 lab in Winnipeg, both Chinese, by the way, and they both went back to China. And the whole report's been blacked out. So we're not getting information on this, but it's not just China. You're thinking like a Trump dude there. Okay,
well,
it's a much bigger game here.
It is. And you know what's trippy, though, is I remember when this story came out originally, when it was in the first 30 days of this happening, that there was a story about some Chinese people that got busted doing something up in Canada, trying to steal some stuff or whatever. And I remember that story was out there, and then it just passed away. But I wanna bring something up and see what you guys think. Caller, you don't have to go. You can stick around. I want to see what you think too.
I'm with you, brother.
Okay, so listen. So at the beginning of this whole thing, okay, I was scouring the earth looking for information on what was going on with this. Okay, and at the time, you could not find any videos coming from China at all about what was happening. You couldn't find them. And so the thing was, the only way you could find them is to search in Chinese, which a friend of mine, John Brisson, figured out. He just said, I'm going to search in Chinese. And he did this searching in Chinese, and he got a hold of these cameras that were rolling 24 hours a day. And so once a bunch of us got a hold of these cameras, I mean, we started watching what was going on there. There was nobody. There was nothing, no people, nowhere. Nothing was happening. It was going on for weeks, man. And then there started to come out all these videos of people, stuff going on, like guys dropping dead in the streets and all these measures. And like those videos were taken to be real. No one ever once even thought for one moment that might have been a crisis actor type situation or some kind of a drill. Now, in the middle of this, I found a video of this Chinese inspection station where people were coming in their cars, and the cops were all standing there waiting for the people. They would pull up, and then they would ask you for your ID. They would do you a scan with like a temperature scan, and then they basically what happened was the video that I saw. This car pulls up. The cop goes up, says, let me take your temperature. They take his temperature. He's got a temperature. They tell him to get out of the car. He won't get out. These cops run over. One of them's got a long stick with a loop on the end of it. They grab this dude around his head and start choking him as all these like 10 or 15 dudes dressed in black come up with these like fumigators. They're just like, and the dude's trying to run away the whole time and everything, and it's all looking serious. I was like, man. And I was blown away by it. I was like, man, is this what's going to happen here? And then there was a moment when the camera pulled back and accidentally caught this sign off to the side that said it was a training exercise. Just for a millisecond. Okay, but had I not witnessed what I saw there, I would have taken that as I was seeing something that was happening in China. And I think a lot of what happened as far as mind control on the American people is concerned happened via the alternative media people searching out information that was coming from China and then propagating that out as though it was what was happening. And I think it was a very, very confusing time. And I want to get you guys' thought on this now. Do you think this whole thing was just put together on China's side to jam up America?
Well, the Chinese, they're communists, and they're master manipulators, and they're master liars. I mean, that's all there is to it. Let's just, call a spade here, man. That's just the way I see it. Your guest there, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know your name.
His Bruce MacDonald.
Bruce MacDonald. Bruce, I don't know your take on it, but I never considered what you were saying about there are other players, as in countries, involved with this virus release. But
Oh
this
yeah,
didn't come from
it's
a bat.
global. No, it did not.
That's just my take on it. But that's very interesting that the only way you could find that is by looking in Chinese. Who the hell talks Chinese around here?
Nobody. But what
in the U.S.
What he did was
Yeah, I speak Mandarin.
Do you? Well, what John did was he typed in what he wanted to say, and then he got a translator off of the internet and just translated what he was saying in his search term. And then because it was in Chinese, there was nothing here to stop us from seeing it. You know what I mean? There was no algorithm here to stop us from seeing that. So it made it seem all the more real. And I mean, think about what was going on. If you guys remember, man, we should do a greatest hits of what happened, because I think people forget. Do you guys remember people looking at these satellite images of the cloud of carbon that was hanging over Wuhan because they were supposedly cremating so many people every day? They were burning people, and there was like this cloud, and then there was the cell phones that went dead, that fell off the picture.
Well, for like 40,000 of them, right, went off the grid at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So there.
But is that true, or is that just a psyop? Like, to me, I have a different view when we get a chance.
Go ahead and do it now. Do it now. There's not much time.
Yeah. So I don't think nations are involved at all. I think nations are a thing of the past. I think that what's happening now is we're starting to see the true colors of the people who actually rule the world, and what they're doing is they're fighting out for who's going to get control over it. It's basically, when you think of oligarchs, but mega oligarchs, man, whatever you want to call them. And some of the main players are the richest man in the world, Putin, by far, right? And people we've never heard of. A lot of them probably down in the Middle East and some other places. But the thing is, and of course we have Gates and Bezos and our cast of characters here. So it's more like a criminal organization on the in the vein of Spectre from a James Bond movie than it is what we think of as a nation against nation kind of thing right now. All these other things are just to keep us distracted, to not focus on what's going on with them, right? So as they move their resources and get their stuff in place, right, to make their play at this. And don't forget, Rome's involved with this too. Rome is Leo Zagami would yell at me for not bringing that up, I'm sure, right? And that, because they are absolutely, the Pope's going to be involved with this as well. So it's because prophecy comes into this as well. Everybody wants to be that one who claims himself to be the Most High in the temple when they rebuild it. And that's your cast of characters. That's where we're heading. And whatever happens to them, something's going to happen to get a head injury, according to prophecy. They're going to merge with the AI, which is the beast, right? That's all the things that are in prophecy right there. And it doesn't matter if it's real or not. It's a screenplay that they can use to act on that gives it more credence and believability when it does happen. Like, it's a fulfillment of prophecy. What can you do? So yeah, the first Great Reset was the Tower of Babel, right? Well, second, I guess.
I got one more egg to lay, and then I will let y'all go.
Go ahead.
How about this? Putting all those old people with COVID up in New York into nursing homes, that was a plot to get a lot of Social Security people off the dole.
Yeah.
How about that?
I wouldn't put that past them one second. And it also eliminates all the people that know what happened, right? So there you go.
But the most vulnerable, you put them all together and just let them die off. That way, Social Security and the state of New York with their welfare system, man. Just put them all together and let them burn.
And think about this too. I mean, in places where there's no places to live. When those old people pass away, apartments come available, houses become available. All of a sudden, there's new taxable workers who are worth something to the system. They can still milk the taxes out of them for another 50, 60 years, But those people whose tax life is over, there's no benefit to the system. They're dead weight. So, how long is it going to be before they'll just have a booth that you can go to? You reach a certain age, you turn yourself in, man. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm just saying. a couple things to think about. Hey, listen, man, I love your show.
Hey, thanks.
You kick ass.
Thanks,
and,
bro.
Afterman.
Badass.
Kicks ass.
Yeah, they do, and we do. And guess what? Did you know that David Knight came on board? No,
sir.
Yeah, he's on in the mornings, like 7 a.m. Pacific. I'm not sure what time that is on the East. I think it's 10 a.m. Pacific or 10 a.m. Eastern. But he's on.
Eastern,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's on Monday through Friday. So he's doing some hard news in the morning, man. So if you're interested, give us a check out tomorrow and check him out.
I'll leave it on, man.
Yeah, man.
I do the internet thing, so
Yeah.
I appreciate what y'all do, man.
Hey, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate you giving us a call, man, and call back anytime. We really appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All right, man.
Y'all have a good night.
You too. Have yourself a great one tomorrow.
Later.
All right,
Be
man.
well, man.
All right,
Be
take
well.
care.
Thank you,
Thanks for
sir.
calling.
Bruce.
Yeah, thanks for calling. All right, well, we got about 10 minutes left, you guys. 626-999-4761, 626-999-4761. Give us a call. Want to hear what you think. Want to hear what you might have to say about some of this that's going on. You know, is this the Great Reset? Is it going to happen? Are you going to go along with it? You going to go quietly into the night? Or are you going to scream, I'm a free man. I'm a sovereign being, and, I deserve to live. And but I don't know, man. It kind of reminds me of that Rod Serling joint with the obsolete man. Books, Mr. Wordsworth. Remember Mr. Wordsworth? What's your words worth, Mr. Wordsworth? You know what the best part about that episode is? He gets to choose how he dies. And the dude goes into this whole 20-minute thing about how they love to just, show this on TV so that people get off on it and this and that. And so the guy, in the end, he says he wants to die with that guy in the room.
It has a ticking time bomb. Yeah.
And the guy runs away because he's a coward. He won't die, and so the guy ends up having to do the same trial as the guy he was prosecuting. It's funny that Twilight Zone was good, and Rod Serling was a pretty influential dude in a lot of ways, man. But it was funny, he really didn't make all that much money, from that.
Really?
Rod Serling, yeah.
I find that surprising.
Yeah, it's interesting too what happened to the show, like after he left and everything, and coming up, he had done a couple of made-for-TV type movies, and then somehow he got a hold of this. They did a pilot, but it changed a lot when he wasn't involved in the show. It wasn't really the same. But anyway, 626-999-4761. 626-999-4761. Give us a call, and we will pick up the phone because we're always here. Aftermath FM, 10:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday, right here immediately following Clyde Lewis and the boys. It's Aftermath FM. It's in the microcosm. 10 minutes left. 626-999-4761. Tomorrow night, Trucker Tuesday. 626 999 4761. 626 999 4761. Give us a call. That's Bay Area favorites, the Greg Kinn Band. He turned into a fiction writer, Greg Kinn. He's got some good books. 626 999 4761. Oh, I almost hung up on Skype. Hey, did we just get a call? 760? Hang on a second. Is that you, 760? You there?
Yes.
All right, stand by. Let me get you some volume. Hold on. Elvin Bishop was coming out of the green room. What's going on? What's going on, 760?
Well, I love your music, dude.
Hey, thanks, bro.
That's for sure. But yeah, tonight's show is spot on, and Well, I do want to say, like, it's a plush show. Always.
Well, thank you. What do you think about this now? Are you going quietly into the night? I mean, are you ready for the borders to come down for you to be free to have your $2,600 and just take off and, go surf in, Ecuador or something? I mean, what are you thinking? Are you going that way, or are you going against it? What do you think?
I gotta go the other way, bro.
Which way?
Yeah,
the way.
I can't do it. I can't do the floor wage shit.
No. So what are you gonna do? So what are you gonna do then? Are you gonna try to start an autonomous community for yourself, or what are you gonna do, man? Because you're gonna have to.
I'm gonna go up into the sequoias and whittle.
Nice. Well, make yourself a flute and go into town and call the rats out.
Yep. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but this is a global thing, obviously. I mean, this is so ridiculous. This is the biggest psyop I think we've ever seen.
I have to agree.
Like globally, yeah. It's not just one country. It's all intertwined.
Do you remember, everybody, at certain times over in Italy, they all sang a song at the same time every night in their lockdowns? And I watched and I looked and I saw a film coming out of Italy, and I see these dudes all standing in a room, okay, with bodies, okay, of people that are dead from whatever it was. There's 15 or 20 bodies sitting on gurneys with sheets over their faces, and there's like 4 or 5 Italian guys standing there having a conversation with no mask on. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if there's ever a place you'd have to wear a mask, it would be the dead body room where the people that died from whatever the disease was. These guys are not.
Absolutely.
I mean, and then you saw these trucks, like these military vehicles lined up as far as the fucking eye could see, literally, and they were purported to be filled with coffins of people that died from this situation. So we got a new caller, 816. You're on the air. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
It's your boy. Who's your daddy? What's up, Jimmy?
Hey, who's ya? What's up, man? It's good to hear from you, bruh.
Oh, I'm just cruising the lanes out here in West Texas,
Are you in West Texas tonight? Well, listen, tomorrow night is Trucker Tuesday, and Way Cool Snoopy owns himself a rig, and he's an independent trucker, so he's going to be putting some people together, and we're going to be talking to truckers around the country tomorrow to find out what's actually going on the ground, because we think truckers really have the eye on America. They know exactly what's happening, so we're hoping everybody's going to call in tomorrow night and tell us what's going on, what they're finding, what they're seeing, because this way, we can all get a glimpse of what you guys are up to. And maybe you can even talk about some of the issues that are coming up for truckers, because I think trucking in itself is going to change quite a bit in the next couple of years. What do you think?
Absolutely, brother. Yeah, Snoopy, it was a fun caller last week. The big thing for me is labor issues right now, as with everybody, but it's been that way for a decade or so with trucking. People just don't want to leave their homes and live out of, a
rig.
frickin' bathroom on wheels, basically.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, man. Now, on the East Coast, my father and his father and all his brothers, they were all Teamsters, man. So they were Teamsters back then. I'm curious, are the Teamsters even still around anymore? I mean,
You bet. They're still a force to be reckoned with out there. I work for a company that's staunchly non-union, but we have equitable wages. The benefits could be a lot better, but it's something. I did want to discuss a little bit about Canada before
Yes, please do.
it's too late, because
Yeah,
I know
please
we're
do.
right at the top of the hour
Yeah,
here.
go ahead, bro.
Are they still doing internment, basically, when you travel out of the country up there? And I mean, that's like some really weird WW2 stuff.
What do you think about that, Bruce? Do you have any word on these mandatory stay-ins in these hotels that cost like $1,000 a night or something? They make you stay there. Have you heard anything about anybody up there in Canada, bro, that has experienced any of that, Bruce? Or do you know if it's still going on? I'm not sure if Bruce is still here. Maybe Bruce left. I think Bruce is gone.
Maybe he joined Greg Kinn in the green room.
He might have. He might have. Well, look, I tell you who I got in the green room, and that's Elvin Bishop, and he is the Midnight Creeper. Let's go out with this one, and we'll be back tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, thanks you guys for calling. You can stay on the line here because we're going to keep it going here for a minute after we get off. But thanks, everybody. My name is Jimmy. It's Aftermath.fm. It's Into the Microcosm. There's Epic Journeyman. There's Who's Your Daddy. 760. Who are you?
Lou.
Hey, oh, jeez, Lou, man. You think I'd remember your area code by now? There's Lou, obviously. All right.
Short term.
Here comes
Short term.
I know. Here comes the Midnight Creeper. We're out of here. See you guys later. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Love you guys.
Love you too, bro. Take care.
I'm a midnight creeper, all day sleeper. Been a long time since I've seen the light of day. You folks might think that's a crying shame, but I love to live my life this way. Yes, 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 yes. Oh, yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Now, sometime I might take me a little sniff of cocaine, but baby, I'm just only trying to ease the pain. You might catch me back in the alley behind the garbage can puffing on some old good weed, but I'm just trying to fulfill my inner need. Yes, 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 yes.
All right. We're out of there. Stand by. All right, there we go. We are gone, man. I think I think Bruce left, so I'm pretty sure he's gone, so we can't say goodbye to Bruce. But Lou, thanks. Who's ya? Thanks. And we'll be back tomorrow night with the Trucker Tuesday, so hopefully that's gonna fly because I haven't talked to him yet today about it. Hey, and I'm real sorry about Christopher Everard. I don't know what happened to him, man. He just he didn't materialize like he was supposed to. So I'm sure there's going to be some miscommunication, time difference situation. So we'll get that squared away for you guys next week.
Cool. Well, thanks, Jimmy.
Hey, bro.
Thanks, Epic.
Yeah, man. I think Epic's... Is Epic gone too?
What's that?
I think Epic's gone too. I think it's just
I'm
us.
pretty sure you hung up on Skype.
Huh? No, I almost did earlier hang up on Skype, but it just looks like it's us, man. Everybody just boned out.
It's a nice
On a
chill
side note,
Monday
I
night.
don't remember, right? I don't remember who exactly it was, if it was Rio, Epic, who it was, but who does the work on car restorations? I need
That's
updates.
Rio.
I want pictures.
That's Rio, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was Rio.
Yeah. We're trying to get our website together here, so there'll be a Rio page and an Epic page, and Rio will have a bunch of car stuff up there, man. He does a bunch of stuff.
Yeah,
man.
because I'm a car guy through and through, man.
We were gonna do a call-in for Rio. We used to do a thing called Poker Night with Rio, and then he would just we would just throw subjects, One of the things, calling about car stuff. I mean, he knows so much about it, man. Seriously, it doesn't matter what kind of car it is. If you had a question, he could answer it. Seriously, he's a badass. Everybody on the show has got is really talented people. So it looks like.
Oh man, yeah, you've got the best panel on Aftermath.
Yeah.
Period.
Definitely.
Hey, thanks. Well, listen, it looks like it says we got dropped. It says we got dropped. I could talk to Bruce after still. I'm not sure what he means. I don't know, but I already did a show earlier today. I'm going to post it on Aftermath tonight. I'm going to cut it up and make it into a podcast for Aftermath, so you guys will hear it tomorrow. But I had this dude on the Global Death Cult. It's called the Cult of the Nine Angles. It's pretty intense conversation. So it's on Revolution.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Hey, were you on his show?
No, I do a show.
Were you interviewing him?
Yeah, I do a show at 3:00 on Mondays on Revolution Radio. So I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
So you were interviewing him?
Yeah, he was on the show.
Or he was your guest.
Yeah, he was a guest. So he wrote a book called Global Death Cult, and the Cult of the Nine Angles, and it's about
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting shit. Mostly how he described it was that there was a sort of a black magic type organization that was mostly interested in enlightening young white supremacist type men, Republican, red Republicans, super conservative, white supremacist types. They wanted to take this group and use this group to infiltrate and convince this group of people to help get the chaos going. So it was interesting.
Wow.
I'll put it up. I'll make sure it goes up for this week for the podcast, so that you guys get a chance to hear it. And again, sorry about the Christopher Everard thing. I feel real bad about that, man. It's I usually don't go out of my way to promote a show before a show. Like the show just happens that day. But I went out of my way to because I was super stoked about it. So not sure what happened, but we'll get a square. In any event, I highly recommend.
In any event,
I highly recommend you go to Penelope's yoga practice on YouTube. She just put out a new video, and let me just say, check it out. All right, let's get out of here, man.
All right, man.
I gotta go.
All right, good night. Good night, Jimmy.
All right, bros. See you guys tomorrow, eh?
Love you all.
Hey, who's your daddy?
Yeah, there he goes.
Yo, what's up, Louis?
In West Texas. West
Dude,
Texas.
That's awesome.
You are
I
on
love
the
that
air.
Land of milk and honey.
I know.
I'm just kidding. It's hot as balls out here. Take her easy, fellas. Have a good night.
All right,
Yeah.
bro. All right,
Good
bro.
night.
All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow, eh? Take care.
All right, later, Jimmy.
small change. They say
money talks, and you'd be surprised at the friends you can buy with small change.